Chapter 1332. Cloud Rising Yudu reformed his body and was about to succeed. However, Grand Luo had no time to care about anything else and tried to interfere. Cloud Rising Yudu, who was undergoing his first tribulation, was naturally stronger than Ning Fengyu. However, Grand Luo couldn't be bothered with him. That was because Ning Fengyu, who had revealed his true form, was already in front of him. With a violent swipe of his claw, the void where Grand Luo was seemed to be condensed into a small dot that was about to be grabbed by Ning Fengyu. Although the Yudu race had a way to deal with the ring, and the ring couldn't truly restrain Cloud Rising Yudu, Grand Luo was still glad that he had the ring with him. Disregarding everything else, the time he had managed to buy was extremely precious. Otherwise, if Cloud Rising Yudu were to attack, Grand Luo wouldn't even be able to defend himself. Only those who had truly fought against the Yudu race could truly understand the terror of the strongest race in the Heaven Origin world. However, Grand Luo's performance similarly shocked Cloud Rising Yudu and Ning Fengyu. Ning Fengyu took a step forward and came before Grand Luo. With a violent swipe of his claw, streaks of green light flickered in his palm as he tried to tear Grand Luo's body apart. Seeing that, Grand Luo opened his mouth, and surging purple light gushed out, forming a purple ball of light above his head. As the purple ball of light flickered, it was like a purple sun that burned fiercely. Its light illuminated the heaven and earth, and even Ning Fengyu's claw could be vaguely seen. In the world of black and red, a purple sun suddenly appeared. In the next instant, the purple sun began to shrink, and its purple radiance gradually dimmed, revealing a deep darkness. Ning Fengyu frowned slightly. His palm shone with green light as he grabbed the heaven and earth, forcefully grabbing towards Grand Luo. The rapidly shrinking purple sun fell into Ning Fengyu's palm first. Space-time instantly distorted, producing a power that was even more terrifying than a normal black hole. Streaks of green light were continuously shattered by the black-purple sun, and the numerous green divine markings became messed up. Ning Fengyu's claw no longer had the terrifying power that covered the heaven and earth. And at this moment, the heart of Daluo's brows shone with a purple brilliance. The overbearing and fierce Yudu Minghua that seemed to be indestructible surged out again, and shot towards Ning Fengyu's palm. Yudu Minghua was the first to shoot through that huge purple sun, and burst forth with violent purple flames. The purple flames fused with the Yudu Minghua, and bombarded the heart of Ning Fengyu's palm. That power seemed to want to pierce through it. Ning Fengyu's eyes were cold as he looked at Grand Luo expressionlessly. Suddenly he retracted his palm. As soon as he retracted his palm, the Grand Luo's vision returned to normal, and the distorted void seemed to have returned to normal. However, the sense of danger in Grand Luo's heart grew stronger than ever. His silver fur stood on end as he clearly sensed the threat of death. "Yudu flowing Miss Flower," Ning Fengyu said coldly, and a beam of green light shot out from the heart of his brows. It was like a long green rainbow that shot towards Grand Immortal's Yudu Minghua. The energy was ethereal and brutal, and everywhere it passed, space was instantly obliterated and shattered. Two beams of violent and resplendent light collided in the void, and at the point of intersection, space and matter completely vanished, forming a black hole. At the first instant of contact, the overbearing and fierce purple light broke the top of the green light, causing the condensed light to shatter into green god markings that scattered in all directions. However, compared to the wisp of purple light, the green light was like a vast ocean that swept over continuously. Both parties were in a deadlock for a moment, and the time at the point of intersection became extremely slow as though countless years had passed. During these countless years, the green light was constantly being destroyed, but more and more green light was constantly surging up. As for the purple light, it was slowly worn out. At this moment, the flow of time at the point of intersection gradually became the same as the flow of time in the outside world. It was as though in the blink of an eye, Grand Luo's Yudu Minghua was finally broken through by Ning Fengyu's Yudu flowing Miss Flower. The violent green rainbow's momentum didn't stop, and it continued to slash towards Grand Luo's head. Grand Luo's expression was solemn, and he only had time to tilt his body slightly, but the green light had already slashed on his shoulder. The green light that surpassed countless divine blades in the world was like flowing wind and sharp blades, light and ethereal yet indestructible. Grand Luo's left shoulder was slashed, and instantly, a large amount of true blood that flickered with purple light splattered. However, at this moment, Grand Luo's body suddenly trembled, and a few faint white lights flashed through his flesh and blood. It was vast and ethereal, as though it was circulating in the entire void, protecting Grand Luo's body. Seeing this, Ningfeng Yudu was slightly stunned, and he flew into a rage. You really used the essence of Grand Uncle Kong Yuan's flesh and blood to reconstruct your body. As he roared, the Yudu Mist Flower's power became even more violent as it crashed towards Grand Luo. The sharp and fierce Yudu Mist Flower broke through the white light on the surface of Grand Luo's body, and continued slashing towards Grand Luo. However, within Grand Luo's body, an even greater power than before burst forth. Demon power surged and kept increasing, even surpassing Ningfeng Yuda's power. This power was violent and chaotic. Even Grand Luo himself couldn't control it, and most of it was wasted. However, Grand Luo was also stimulated. He gritted his teeth and ignored Yudu Mist Flower. The triangular radiance above his head was dazzling, and Yudu Minghua shot out from the heart of his brows again towards Ningfeng Yudu. The angry roars of the two Yudu beasts reverberated between heaven and earth, and true blood that flickered with purple light splattered everywhere. Grand Luo's left arm was cut off by Ningfeng Yudu's Yudu Mist Flower, and his Yudu Minghua also shattered a corner of Ningfeng Yudu's head. If Ningfeng Yudu hadn't dodged in time, he would have been hit in the head, and his skull might even have been pierced through. Ningfeng Yudu was furious, and he slashed his claw down on Grand Luo's chest, leaving behind a few bloody claw marks that were so deep that bones could be seen. Purple and white light flickered all over the Grand Immortal's body. Even though he had revealed his true form, his calm face now showed a savage and violent expression. His eyes had turned completely purple, and his pupils could no longer be seen, only a violent purple light flashing within. His body trembled violently, especially the lumbar vertebrae on his back, which kept vibrating. Seeing him like this, the anger in Ningfeng Yudu's heart disappeared, and he calmed down again. A sense of danger rose in his heart. Grand Luo opened his mouth and roared towards the sky. His expression was extremely ferocious, and the demon power in his body was still chaotic and out of control. However, it was vast and boundless, shaking the entire void, and completely above Ningfeng Yudu. However, blood seeped out of Grand Luo's body, and his entire body trembled even more violently, as though it would disintegrate at any time. The source of this change was a joint on Grand Luo's spine. At this moment, from the wound on his chest, which was almost split open by Ningfeng Yudu, and from the wound on his left shoulder where his arm was severed, violent purple light shot out continuously. The world that was originally red and black seemed to be illuminated purple at this moment, turning into a purple heaven and earth. The red and black had all disappeared, as though this world had always been like this. Grand Luo's body seemed to be on the verge of disintegration, and a bone at his waist had a chaotic and blurry color, as though it was the most primordial chaos of the universe. That bone. In an instant, Ningfeng Yudu felt cold sweat breaking out on his back. He didn't dare to hesitate, and he immediately flew back. However, a claw flashing with purple light suddenly stretched out, traversing through layers of void at a speed faster than Ningfeng Yudu, and grabbed onto one of Ningfeng Yudu's hands. That violent power squeezed Ningfeng Yudu to the point where he felt like his claw was about to shatter and turn into a pile of meat paste. However, Ningfeng Yudu couldn't care less about his arm, because the person who grabbed onto him was Grand Luo. Grand Luo suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were completely filled with purple light. The Yudu nether flower at the heart of his brows flickered, and it was unprecedentedly dazzling. The purple divine light that tore apart heaven and earth shot out, and its target was Ningfeng Yudu. Ningfeng Yudu didn't have time to react, and could only forcefully execute his Yudu flowing mist flower to clash with Grand Luo's Yudu nether flower. However, the result this time was that the green splendor was forcefully broken by the purple splendor, and the dazzling purple divine light continued to slash towards Ningfeng Yudu. The shadow of death shrouded Ningfeng Yudu's entire body, and even caused his demon soul thoughts to be unable to function, as though they were frozen. Yudu Desert Mist Flower. A grayish-white divine light suddenly descended from the sky, and helped Ningfeng Yudu to forcefully block the Yudu nether flower from Grand Luo. Ningfeng Yudu raised his head and saw a Yudu beast with an astonishing aura looking down on them from the void. The Yudu beast was covered in silver-white fur, and purple light flowed around it. Outside the purple light, there were countless grayish-white divine markings that flickered and flowed endlessly. It was Yunqing Yudu, who had reconstructed his body and used the black shadow to escape the shackles of the ring. He immediately manifested his true form, executing his Yudu Desert Mist Flower to help Ningfeng Yudu block the Grand Luo's attack in the nick of time. The purple divine light and the grayish-white divine light clashed violently in the void, and both crumbled. The purple and grayish-white light rained down from the sky like a rain of light, and every ray of light that scattered pierced through the void. Grand Luo roared at the sky, and the bone on his spine trembled even more violently. Arrows of blood shot out from all over his body, but the waves of demonic power became even more violent. That should be the bone left behind by Her Majesty Yuhuang when Father and the Master of the Celestial Gate fought over it back then. If the power is completely unleashed, Grand Luo's body would be completely destroyed, and I wouldn't be able to block it either. Yunqing Yuda's expression was solemn. Luckily, he can't control this power freely. He didn't give Grand Luo a chance to continue moving, nor could he care about saving Ningfeng Yudu. His body suddenly sank, and his huge body turned into a grayish-white stream of light. He instantly appeared before Grand Luo, and he clawed at him with his claws. Purple light surrounded Grand Luo as he roared at the sky, and his body trembled even more violently. Chapter 1333. Circles of purple light around Grand Luo's body spread out like a tidal wave. Light mist divine markings were imprinted in the void, each of them resembling a miniature formation. These divine markings stacked on top of each other, shaking the void and causing the entire red-black world to change. The laws and logos of the Great Tao kept twisting and changing. Ningfeng Yuda's claw was grabbed by Grand Luo, and his body was engulfed by the heavy light tide. He was like a bug sealed in amber, unable to move. Under the illumination of the purple light, the green light patterns around his body began to melt and disintegrate. Cloud Ascending Yudu, on the other hand, turned into a grayish-white stream of light. Like a thin thread in the air, he weaved through the purple light around Grand Luo, passing through it and arriving in front of Grand Luo. He clawed at Grand Luo with both of his claws, but he didn't try to kill him, nor did he touch the bone at his waist. Instead, he retracted his claws from both sides. At the center of Yunqing Yuda's claws, rays of grayish-white light flashed continuously, trapping Grand Luo in the middle. At the heart of Yunqing Yuda's brows, the grayish-white Yuda Desert Mist burst forth again, but it didn't shoot straight at Grand Luo. Instead, it transformed into layers of grayish-white demonic aura that shrouded Grand Luo. At this moment, the demonic power ripples from the bone at Grand Luo's waist finally stabilized and stopped growing. Although it was still extremely powerful, the terrifying power that intimidated people's hearts finally calmed down. Ningfeng Yudu did not dare to hesitate at all. He wanted to forcefully break free from Grand Luo's grasp. However, under the exertion of force, his entire arm had already been broken. His severed limb was still in Grand Luo's hand, but it had already been crushed into a bloody mess. He glared at Grand Luo and gritted his teeth. Her Majesty Yuhuang's skeleton. You traitor, you deserve to be cut into pieces. Purple light flashed in Grand Luo's eyes, and his expression was savage and manic as if he had lost all rationality. He didn't react to Ningfeng Yuda's curses. Yunqing Yudu looked at Grand Luo coldly. This is a power you can't activate or control. Even if you want to die with me, your cultivation realm is too low. You won't be able to do it. He let out a long howl, and waves of demonic power circulated continuously, suppressing Grand Luo's mind and the Yuda skeleton in his body, preventing them from being able to move further. Since you are determined to betray our clan, you are not worthy to possess Her Majesty's remains. As Yunqing Yu spoke, a white light shot out from each of the 3 horns on his head. The light converged in the air and formed a white ball of light. An illusory claw reached out from the white ball of light. The claw was like clouds and mist. It looked light and powerless, but under the shroud of the Yuda mist, it successfully broke through the purple light protecting Grand Luo's body, and grabbed towards the back of his waist. But at this time, in the distant great hall of this dimensional realm, A violent shaking sounded out. The crocodile god looked at the center of the spell design in shock. Wang Lin's great demon clone was sitting cross-legged. The great demon clone opened its eyes, and beams of blood-red light shot out, like a blood-red river. In the river, black god markings rose and fell. At the same time, outside the battlefield in the void, on the immortal abode island in the Eagle Sea, Wang Lin's true body opened his eyes as well. The crack on his forehead twisted slightly and changed into the Taiji pattern again. There was now a thin crack on the Taiji pattern. The crack was originally on the Taiji pattern, but as the Taiji pattern rotated, the crack turned upside down as well. In the eyes of Wang Lin's true body, spots of light flickered continuously. Layers of light and shadow flowed as if the thoughts of thousands of living beings were contained within them. In the black and red world of the battlefield in the void, Wang Lin's great demon clone suddenly stood up, turned around, and left the great hall. The great demon clone let out a long howl, and instantly grew to a height of 10,000 zhang, as if he could support the heavens. The ground beneath his feet shrunk to inches, and in just a few steps, he arrived where Zenith Luo and the others were. Yin Xingyudu and Ning Fengyu both looked at him. They felt that the giant that had appeared in front of them not only exuded a vast amount of blood energy, but also had an extremely evil aura and a violent will. There was also a faint and indiscernible concept of power. His huge body stood there, boundlessly domineering and violent, and his power shook the heavens and the earth. But there was also a mysterious, omnipresent, and inextinguishable feeling. The crocodile god flew out with Wang Lin's great demon clone, and its body gradually became illusory, fusing with the ancestral crocodile divine armor. Then, the thick armor covered the great demon clone's pitch-black body. Countless pieces of armor covered the great demon clone like rocks, making it look like a towering mountain, a pillar that could support the heavens. The great demon clone stood on the ground without moving. Instantly, it stabilized the black and red world that was full of cracks and looked like it was about to shatter. But in the next moment, the great demon clone was as still as a mountain, and he moved like lightning. He took a step forward, and heaven and earth became even more distorted, on the verge of shattering. His huge body rushed towards Yin Xingyudu and Zenith Luo. Seeing this, Ning Fengyu ignored his broken arm and blocked in front of the great demon clone. He could see that the great demon clone's corporeal body and blood energy were extremely strong, and together with the ancestral crocodile divine armor, its power was even more violent. Naturally, he wouldn't attack the enemy's strong point with his weak point. Green light flowed from the heart of his brows, and a long rainbow shot out. It was Yuda Mist Hua. Seeing this, the great demon clone didn't stop moving. While the ancestral crocodile divine armor was strengthened, he stretched out a finger. That finger pointed, and everything in the black and red world seemed to have become still. Only that finger continued to move forward. Ning Fengyu's mind was slightly dazed. It was as if an endless abyss of devils had appeared in front of him, and a horde of devils danced around. He lowered his head to look at the abyss, but it was as if he was looking up at a tower that reached into the sky. Everything in the world was gathered on the tower, and he transformed into a devil that worshipped the top of the tower. The entire devil abyss suppressed him, and he couldn't bear the burden anymore. He almost knelt down. The tip of the finger, the tip of the tower, and the bottom of the abyss all became one. They gathered at one point, and it became incomparably heavy. There was no explosion of chi and blood energy, and the acupoints around his body didn't tremble. There was also no astonishing explosive power like the birth and death of the universe in his body. However, when Wang Lin's great demon clone pointed out, Ning Fengyu's Yuda Mist Hua instantly found it hard to move forward. The green light was continuously destroyed, and it was even pushed back towards Ning Fengyu. The primordial devil cult's supreme scriptures of the past, the primordial devil scriptures, recorded the pinnacle of the martial path divine art, Bow of all devils. The Yudu race had fought with the primordial devil cult of the divine land many times in the Middle Epoch. At that time, even though Ning Fengyu Yuda hadn't been born yet, his heritage was deep, and he couldn't recognize anything else. However, he could recognize the Bow of all devils. His injuries aren't small, but this guy's power has completely surpassed that of a human cultivator of the Dao integration realm. Ning Fengyu gritted his teeth. As he watched Wang Lin's finger suppress his attack, he didn't stop moving. Instead, he took a step forward and rushed in front of Cloud Rising Yudu. The seemingly violent momentum suddenly changed and became incomparably gentle. However, it stirred the demon power of Cloud Rising Yudu, who was suppressing the Grand Heavenly Immortal. Cloud Rising Yudu was trying to seize the Yudu skeleton in the Grand Heavenly Immortal's body. He had no time to be distracted by trying to control the out-of-control skeleton. Now, with Wang Lin's interference, the situation instantly went out of control again. Helpless, Cloud Rising Yudu quickly retreated. However, after retreating, he immediately advanced. This time his target was Wang Lin's great demon clone. Under the shroud of the violent demon power, even Wang Lin's great demon clone felt suffocated. He didn't need to divert his attention to Cloud Rising Yudu, who was on the Grand Heavenly Immortal's side. He completely unleashed his terrifying power, and the sky above his head instantly split open. It was unprecedentedly huge. At this time, the Grand Heavenly Immortal was in mid-air. His head drooped slightly, and the purple light in his eyes became a little numb. The skeleton at his waist, after a brief moment of calm, showed signs of agitation again. Cloud Rising Yudu didn't care about this. Grayish-white light flowed from the heart of his brows, and the terrifying Yudu desert mist was ready to be unleashed. On the other side, Ning Fengyu covered his broken arm with his remaining hand. He also stared coldly at Wang Lin's great demon clone. Wang Lin's face, which was covered by the ancestral crocodile divine armor, was expressionless. He looked at Cloud Rising Yudu and Ning Fengyu as if they were two inanimate objects, sending chills down people's spines. The thick ancestral crocodile divine armor suddenly detached from his body. Seeing this, Cloud Rising Yudu's pupils shrank. Naturally, Wang Lin wouldn't just wait for death. His current behavior immediately gave Cloud Rising Yudu a bad feeling. Without the slightest hesitation, the grayish-white light instantly poured out, sweeping through the void like a surging tide, crashing towards Wang Lin's great devil avatar. At the same time, Wang Lin's great demon clone had already stretched out a finger and touched the center of the crack between his brows. In the next instant, Cloud Rising Yudu and Ning Fengyu's vision blurred. The towering great demon clone had already disappeared. What replaced it was a tall and short figure of an ordinary person. The figure was dressed in black, and as his sleeves fluttered, it blended into the vast void as if he had absorbed the entire world into his body. His body didn't look tall, but it seemed like it could contain a world. His figure was vaguely transparent, and it was a shocking scene inside his body. The long yellow springs road turned into his skin, and the surging river of forgetfulness flowed in his veins. A desolate and ancient black stone bridge turned into his spine. In his heart, there was a black palace that looked like a majestic city. In the palace, there were two wheels, one black and one white, spinning rapidly. The figure's facial features were exactly the same as Wang Lin's. When his eyes opened and closed, they were like two sparkling crystals or mirrors. Countless lights and shadows flashed on the surface of the mirror, showing the past, present, and future. However, these things were constantly changing between certainty and uncertainty, filled with a sense of absurdity and mystery. On the figure's forehead, there was a black and white Tai Chi pattern. Slowly, it spun with all the mysteries of the world. This figure was Wang Lin's void-returning physique. Today, the third disciple of the Celestial Gate Master Lin Feng, the extreme heavenly venerate Wang Lin, had refined his spirit to return to the void. Chapter 1334. Wang Lin stood in the void, his gaze sweeping past the Grand Luo and Cloud Ascending Yudu, facing the restless skeleton in the Grand Luo's body, and the Yudu desert mist that Cloud Ascending Yudu had unleashed. The Taiji rune on Wang Lin's forehead spun, and a strange glow suddenly flashed in his eyes. A ray of black light and a ray of white light shot out of his eyes. The black and white lights crisscrossed in his mirror-like pupils, intersecting vertically like two crossroads. Two crosses formed by the black and white lights flew out of Wang Lin's eyes and enlarged rapidly in the void, spanning across the horizon. One of the crosses blocked Cloud Ascending Yudu's Yudu desert mist. Grayish-white light that resembled rolling clouds landed on the cross, wanting to destroy and devour it. Wang Lin looked at Ning Feng Yudu and said calmly, "Kill him." Following Wang Lin's will, the grayish-white Yude desert mist trembled and landed on the vertical black light. It was like a stream of water that sank into the long river, floating and sinking in the black light as it moved forward. Then, at the strange intersection of the cross, it didn't continue moving along the black light. Instead, it suddenly made a turn and merged into the horizontal white light. The next moment, cloud ascending Yude's violent and vast Yude desert mist rushed out of the white light, but it didn't rush towards Wang Lin. Instead, it came in front of Ningfeng Yudu. Everything happened in an instant. The boundaries of time and space were erased, and when the Yude desert mist reappeared, it was about to devour Ningfeng Yudu. Cloud ascending Yudu was shocked. He felt that the laws of heaven and earth seemed to have been forcefully changed in that instant. He didn't lose control of the Yude desert mist's power, but the result was completely different from what he wanted. What was even more shocking was that at his current cultivation realm, his will moved with his will, and the laws were born from his heart. His control of his own power was already very precise, and it was a piece of cake for him to control it freely. To cloud ascending Yudu, the time needed for his demon soul to move a thought was too short. To cloud rising Yudu, the time needed for his demon soul to think was simply too short. At that moment, the Yudu desert mist splendor was about to injure Ningfeng Yudu by accident. Even though he was already very close, cloud rising Yudu still had time to retract his power. However, the strange black and white cross-shaped radiance that was born from Wang Lin's pupils spun in the air. A strange feeling rose in Yinsheng Yuda's heart. His Yude desert mist seemed to be destined to land on Ningfeng Yuda's body, and this outcome was hard to change. Even Yin Qingyu couldn't change anything, so it was even more difficult for Ningfeng Yudu to do anything. In such a situation, the desert mist of Yudu shot towards him, and he couldn't react in time at all. He could only watch as the grayish-white light covered the heaven and earth and filled his field of vision, swallowing him up like a tide. Yinsheng Yuda's expression flickered, and he took a deep breath as the two white halos in his eyes began to transform. The white halos at the edge of his left pupil instantly turned black. An array of black profound light shot out from his left eye. The black profound light seemed to be able to reverse time and reorganize space. It landed on the black and white cross-shaped radiance that Wang Lin had shot out first. The moment the vigorous black light touched the cross-shaped radiance, it suddenly exploded and transformed into a black fog that shrouded the cross-shaped radiance. At that moment, Yinsheng Yudu felt that the entire world had become different. It was as if it had returned to the black and red world before Wang Lin had appeared. With a thought, the Yude desert mist he had shot out suddenly changed direction, and it brushed past Ningfeng Yudu by a hair's breadth. Wang Lin took a look at the black fog that shrouded the black and white cross, and he came to a realization. This isn't your own power. It looks like it's transformed from the Yudu profound flower of fantasy Sun Yudu. Yinsheng Yudu was bewildered as he watched the black mist disappear along with the black and white cross radiance. Ningfeng Yudu's face revealed an expression as if he had just survived a disaster. He looked at Wang Lin with caution and alertness. When they saw the strange black and white cross-shaped radiance, Yinsheng Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu's expressions became extremely solemn. That divine art and spell of his is so strange. What exactly is going on? If it reflects my demon power and attacks myself, I can still block it. However, if it attacks Ningfeng, he'll be in grave danger. Yinsheng Yudu's expression was grim, and Ningfeng Yudu, who had narrowly escaped death, was even more shocked and furious. At that moment, the pain from the wound that Grand Luo left on him seemed to become more and more distinct, causing him to glare at Wang Lin and Grand Luo with hatred. At that moment, Wang Lin's gaze also landed on Grand Luo, who was at the side. Another black and white cross-shaped radiance descended and enveloped Grand Luo's body. Grand Luo's body trembled, and the bone that originated from the Yuhuang celestial sea in his body trembled violently again. Majestic power erupted once more. Wang Lin shouted, "Junior brother Grand Luo." When he heard that, the piercing purple light in Grand Luo's eyes dimmed slightly, and he calmed down slightly. His spirit seemed to have relaxed, and his neck stiffened as he turned to look at Wang Lin. Looking at Grand Luo in such a state, Wang Lin was calm and indifferent, and a rare hint of warmth appeared in his cold eyes. He said softly, "Calm down." As his voice rang out, Grand Luo's figure was already within the white stream of light. His body moved along the stream of light, and when he arrived at the intersection of white and black radiance, he did not continue along the white radiance. Instead, he took a turn at the intersection point, and his body melted into the black radiance in another direction. Within the black radiance, Grand Luo's presence became calmer, and the bone that originated from the Yuhuang celestial sea by his waist was the first to stop moving. Grand Luo's body that flickered with purple and white radiance, as well as the raging demon force within, also calmed down. The berserk, numb, and irrational purple radiance in his eyes were completely extinguished, and his gaze became clear once more. The silvery fur slowly retracted beneath the surface of his body, and the Grand Luo who flowed quietly amidst the black flow of light did not even reveal his true form. However, the many injuries he sustained from his battle against Ningfeng Yudu and his loss of control over his demon force still remained, causing Grand Luo's body to appear battered and battered. Grand Luo emerged from the black radiance, and with a flip of Wang Lin's palm, a white radiance wrapped around him and brought him to his side. Grand Luo smiled weakly, and as the white radiance enveloped him, he could feel his injuries slowly healing. Immense fatigue overwhelmed him, causing him to fall into a deep slumber. Take good care of him. Wang Lin swung his arm behind him, and Grand Luo landed beside the primordial spirit crocodile god, which had manifested its true form as the ancestral crocodile divine armor. Crocodile god silently received Grand Luo, and its figure retreated. Seeing this, Yunxing Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu moved slightly, and Wang Lin's gaze landed on them once more. The warmth in his gaze had completely disappeared, and it became cold and murderous, causing one's heart to palpitate. Wang Lin stared coldly at Yunxing Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu, and did not waste any words. His hands formed a strange mudra in front of his chest, distorting yet serene at the same time. His void return Dharma body trembled, and instantly, layers of light and shadows filled the void. Streaks of black chi and streaks of golden light appeared together, turning into two opposing worlds that blended together. On one side, it was pitch black like ink, and twisted and vicious evil demons struggled and roared. Their roars were enough to drive one mad and plunge into the abyss. On the other side, it was bright and clear, and pure and merciful Buddhas sat in the lotus position, chanting scriptures, and the chanting of the Buddhas rang out incessantly. The domain of devils and the pure land appeared in the void at the same time, turning into a Taiji diagram formed by black and gold. Slowly, they rotated, opposing each other, but also blended together. At the heart of Wang Lin's void return Dharma body, the door of Emperor Yan's hall suddenly opened. Two wheels of light, one black and one white, rotated together, and then turned into two streaks of light, rushing out of his body, and into the domain of devils pure land above. In the next instant, a tall and skinny figure walked out from the domain of Devil's Pure Land. The giant's figure constantly alternated between plump and skinny, revealing the essence of the changes of withering and flourishing. However, his body was split into two parts. One was pitch black, and the other was colored glass. He was born with 2 heads and 1,000 arms. Of the 2 heads of the giant, one was solemn and dignified, full of wisdom and enlightenment, while the other was cold and ferocious. There was a crack between his brows, and red light flashed from the crack, looking extremely ferocious. On the side of the Buddha's head, there was an eye in the palm of each arm. The eyes were merciful and peaceful, seeing through the karma of the mortal world. On the side of the evil demon's head, there was also an eye in the palm of each arm, but the eyes were bloodthirsty and extremely evil. Although this giant was only an illusion, it exuded an unparalleled majesty. What made Yunxing Yudu and Ningfeng Yu especially wary was that when they were stared at by the 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, their minds fell into an extremely conflicted state. On one hand, they wanted to let go of everything and not think about anything, but on the other hand, it was as if all the thoughts in their minds were stirred up, and all the tiny thoughts that they had buried deep in their hearts, even those that they didn't notice, were all stirred up at this moment. If it was just one of them, perhaps it would be easy to deal with. However, these two extremely conflicting thoughts that would not cancel each other out rose up in their hearts at the same time. Even Yunxing Yudu felt his demon soul tremble. as if it was being torn apart. As for Ning Fengyu, he let out a low roar of pain. His expression twisted violently, and his body trembled nonstop. However, his eyes became dull and numb, and there was no emotion in them. Yunxing Yudu raised his head and stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin also looked at him expressionlessly. Although he had just cultivated his spirit to return to the void, and this Bodhi demon heart seal was a new divine art that he had just comprehended, under the suppression of his magic power, the two Yudu beasts were in a dilemma. In the eyes of Wang Lin's void return physique, two rays of light, one black and one white, intersected and transformed into a ray of light that looked like a black and white cross, shrouding the two Yudu beasts. Chapter 1335. Seeing the light of the black and white cross, Yunxing Yudu's expression changed slightly, and his gaze became extremely solemn. He raised his head and let out a long howl. At the tip of each of the horns, a white ball of light appeared. Then the three white balls of light left the horns and turned into three beams of pale light that intertwined in the void. Then, they exploded and turned into a gray mist. Under the cover of the fog, the void was immediately isolated, isolating the strange power of Wang Lin's Bodhiju demon heart seal. The gray fog flashed with light and flowed continuously in the world. God markings danced in the air and confronted the black and white cross. Yunxing Yudu was a great demon of Yudu in the first tribulation. Although his demon power was inferior to Bright Slayer Yudu, who fought White Tiger Great Sage, he was still extraordinary. With the experience of fighting Wang Lin just now, he was much more careful now. He calmed his mind and emptied his mind, not thinking about anything else. His mind was extremely agile, and layers of demon power formed a defense. They didn't belong to each other, but they were one and flowed endlessly. Using this method, Yunxing Yudu prevented Wang Lin's secret technique from breaking through his defense. Even if another demon power was tampered with by Wang Lin, he could use other demon powers to resist the sudden change. He was restless and wanted nothing more than to capture the grand heavenly immortal that was temporarily protected by the crocodile god, and cut it into pieces. He wanted to crush the body created by the essence of Yudu's flesh and blood, and take back the skeleton left behind by Yuhuang's celestial sea. Or, he could fight the direct disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, Wang Lin, and not let Wang Lin have an easy time no matter what price he had to pay. However, Yunxing Yudu still suppressed his restless thoughts. Although he found it hard to accept, he had to admit that although Wang Lin had just refined his spirit to return to the void, his divine arts and magic power were so strong that they could rival human cultivators in the Dharma-ending realm. Under such circumstances, he might not be able to emerge victorious even if he revealed his true form. While the Grand Luo beside him had calmed down, there was still a chance that he would change if Wang Lin were to die. Even if he could defeat Wang Lin, it would only be a Pyrrhic victory. If the Grand Luo were to activate the power of the skeleton, he would not be able to suppress it, and the only outcome would be mutual destruction. In such a battle, the best outcome would be for both sides to be heavily injured, and he would not even have a high chance of winning. Yunxing Yudu thought about it, and decided to retreat. He could vaguely feel the mysterious and unfathomable power concept in the black and white cross. He took a deep breath and used his demonic energy to protect Ningfeng Yudu as he retreated. As the grayish-white mist retreated, the black and white cross continued to press forward. Wang Lin stared coldly at the two Yudu beasts, and another black and white cross appeared in his other eye. Yunxing Yudu frowned slightly when he saw this. There was originally a white halo around each of his eyes, but one was used up earlier. Now only one was left, and it gradually turned from white to black, exuding a mysterious and domineering power. Wang Lin's void return Dharma body stood in the void. His mirror-like eyes reflected the figures of Yunxing Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu. Silently, he looked at the two Yudu beasts without saying a word. His eyes were as deep as the abyss. As Yunxing Yudu was retreating, he suddenly heard Ningfeng Yudu say, "Hold him back. I'll go deal with the Grand Luo. We must retrieve Her Majesty's skeleton." He paused for a moment before continuing. "If that skeleton is in our hands, it'll be a piece of cake to deal with this person." As he spoke, Ningfeng Yuda's figure suddenly turned into a green stream of light, sweeping through the air like a breeze, and instantly pounced in front of the Grand Luo. Yun Xingyudu was stunned by this scene. Ning Fengyu. Wang Lin's eyes that were originally like the abyss now burst with dazzling light. Seeing that Yun Xingyudu wanted to stop him, Wang Lin's divine arts and magic power suppressed him, causing Yun Xingyudu to only watch as Ning Fengyu rushed toward the Grand Luo. Die. Meanwhile, Wang Lin's gaze landed on Ning Fengyu coldly. He pointed at him lightly, and a black and white cross instantly enveloped Ning Fengyu. The intertwining black and white radiance seemed light and weightless, but it was difficult for Ning Fengyu to dodge. Although the two radiances could be seen clearly, they did not seem to exist in this world. They were not fast, but they seemed to ignore the existence of space, and it was hard to describe their speed with time. When Ning Fengyu was in the white radiance, his mind was in a trance. Why did I suddenly have the thought of killing Grand Luo? I'm clearly under the protection of Cloud Carriage. If he wants to kill me, he must first break through Cloud Carriage's defense. At a time like this, I should just retreat with Cloud Carriage. Wouldn't attacking Grand Luo be suicide? Once this thought appeared in his mind, Ning Fengyu was shocked. He looked at Wang Lin, and saw strange flowing lights swirling in Wang Lin's eyes, making it hard for others to see through the mysteries within. However, looking at those eyes, Ning Fengyu only felt his mind being filled with distracting thoughts. Some thoughts were suppressed and almost forgotten, while others were magnified on a large scale, making it hard for him to control himself. He could not even be aware of it, and only felt that it was natural. This feeling. Is it the legendary primordial heart demon concession curse? Ning Fengyu's mind was in turmoil. No, it's not just the primordial heart demon concession curse. There's also the power of the human race's Buddhist 3 lives karma curse, and something else. Is it Xianmen Tianzong's Tao art direct lineage? The fusion of so many mystical techniques can actually give rise to such a change. Ning Fengyu, who had regained his composure, wanted to resist and break free from the black and white cross radiance. However, it was futile. His body moved forward along the white light, and when he reached the intersection point of the white light and black light, he made a strange turn at the intersection point, and his body melted into the black light flowing in another direction. In the black light flowing, Ning Fengyu saw his flesh and blood continuously rotting. His demonic qi was gradually disintegrating, and his undying demonic soul was also collapsing. His life seemed to be rapidly approaching its end, heading towards destruction. Die. Wang Lin's calm voice seemed to resound in Ning Fengyu's heart again. Those simple words seemed to have determined his fate, irreversible and unchangeable. It was as if that was the predetermined path of his fate, logical and unperturbed. Even if there were some ripples, it would still not deviate from the predetermined path. Some changes were just some different scenery in the course of life. Wang Lin had comprehended the yin and yang origin scripture, and combined it with his own understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth, to create this domineering divine ability, the heaven-defying fate-changing curse. Once the words were spoken, it could change one's fate. After Wang Lin refined his spirit and returned to the void, he achieved the void return physique and ascended to the void return realm. This strange, domineering, and mysterious divine ability gradually became more and more perfect, and it became more and more unpredictable. Although it wasn't impossible to resist or break free from, it was clearly not something that Ning Fengyu could do. Therefore, his ending was already determined the moment he fell into the black and white cross radiance. No one knew what his original fate would be, and no one paid attention to it anymore. At this moment, there was only one result: death. Yun Xingyu watched as Ning Fengyu was killed by Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing curse in an instant, and he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This scene was too bizarre, to the point that it felt absurd. Yun Xingyu asked himself if he wanted to kill Ning Fengyu. Although it wouldn't be difficult, he might not be able to do it so easily. Even if Ning Fengyu was injured, he might not be able to do it so easily. Seeing his kinsman disappear into the black light, Yun Xingyu had an urge to activate the black light in his eyes to save Ning Fengyu. He couldn't just watch as he was killed by Wang Lin like that. Even if Wang Lin still had another heaven-defying fate-changing curse, like a sword hanging high above Yun Xingyu's head, he didn't care. As long as he could. Wait a minute. Yun Xingyu was shocked. Thinking back to Ningfeng Yuda's impulsive actions just now, he suddenly realized that he had been affected by Wang Lin unknowingly. Even though he had been focusing on stabilizing his state of mind, he was still almost taken advantage of by Wang Lin. Looking at Wang Lin's colorful and emotionless eyes, Yinsheng Yuda's mind suddenly became clear. The reason why he wanted to retreat just now was actually because of Wang Lin's influence. Wang Lin's actions didn't stop there. The effects on Yinsheng Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu were completely different. Although they both amplified a certain thought in each other's mind, to Yinsheng Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu, one wanted to retreat, while the other wanted to advance. The result was obvious. What made Yinsheng Yudu feel even colder was that under Wang Lin's influence, it was the strong Yinsheng Yudu who wanted to retreat, while the weak Ningfeng Yudu wanted to take a risk. Such a contradictory thing really happened, and it formed a twisted and uncoordinated feeling of being torn apart. In the end, Ningfeng Yudu, who was temporarily safe under Yinsheng Yuda's protection, was instantly killed by Wang Lin. Yinsheng Yudu stared at Wang Lin, and his pupils contracted. Pervasive and impossible to guard against. It's not a forceful control, but it amplifies a certain thought in our mind, causing us to unknowingly step into the trap. In a battle between experts, the difference between victory and defeat was always a thin line. A slight accident could affect the outcome of the battle, let alone when one of them made a mistake. And if the other party knew about the mistake beforehand, the result would be even more unimaginable. The black and white cross-shaped radiance that engulfed Ningfeng Yudu disappeared into the void together with him, as if Ningfeng Yudu had never existed. Wang Lin's expression was calm as usual. He looked at Yinsheng Yudu again, his eyes cold and emotionless, as if he was looking at a dead object. Chapter 1336. Looking at Wang Lin, Yinsheng Yudu felt a chill in his heart. The other party's previous plan was targeted at Ningfeng Jiaodu, not him, who was stronger. Without even asking, it was obvious that the other party intended to keep both of them here. This was to prevent Ningfeng Jiaodu from finding a chance to escape. When he fought with Yinsheng Yudu, Wang Lin's expression was indifferent, as if what he had just killed wasn't a Yudu beast at the Union of Stars and Souls realm, which was far stronger than ordinary demons. His gaze on Cloud Ascending Yudu was still cold. After Wang Lin had proven his primordial spirit, he was no longer as cold as he was during the Golden Elixir period and the Yuanying period. He looked more like he had returned to his natural state. Usually, he didn't use his magic power and was like a mortal. Even when he fought with others, he didn't look ferocious, even if he was decisive. It was rare to see him so cold and murderous, as if he had returned to his old self. Just because he had only taken a glance at Grand Luo's situation, how could Wang Lin not know how much he had paid for him and Ning Wanga, who had been in seclusion? Wang Lin was also aware of Grand Luo's confusion. He also knew that Grand Luo didn't want to fight with the Yudu race. Ningfeng Jiaodu had been injured by Grand Luo previously. One reason was because he was forced to fight, and the other was because Grand Luo's state of mind was lost in the battle, and he gradually fell into madness, unable to control himself. Killing Yinsheng Yudu and Ningfeng Jiaodu here might not be something that Grand Luo would be happy to see. However, to Wang Lin, it was impossible for Wang Lin to just swallow the fact that the other party had tried to harm them, and had also disregarded the fact that they were of the same race to injure a Grand Luo to such an extent. Even if his cultivation was weaker, Wang Lin wouldn't be afraid of Yinsheng Yudu, let alone Yinsheng Yudu who had successfully refined his spirit to return to the void. He wouldn't back down. Wang Lin stared coldly at Yinsheng Yudu, an indescribable glow flashing in his eyes. The black and white cross formed by executing the heaven-defying fate-changing curse was still pressing down on Yinsheng Yudu. It was like a sharp sword hanging above Yinsheng Yudu's head. The tip of the sword was so cold that he didn't dare to underestimate it. Yinsheng Yudu was slightly annoyed. He had been affected by Wang Lin, and his pace was the complete opposite of Ningfeng Jiaodu. Otherwise, if he fought with Ningfeng Jiaodu, he wouldn't be able to kill Ningfeng Jiaodu so easily. Even if Ningfeng Jiaodu died under Wang Lin's hands, Yinsheng Yudu could still make Wang Lin pay. However, the result now was that Ningfeng Jiaodu had died for nothing. How could Yinsheng Yudu not be annoyed? However, just as anger and unwillingness rose in his heart, Yunqing Yudu became solemn and forced himself to calm down. He was cautious and tried his best to calm down any thoughts that arose. Then he continued to flee out of the black and red world. Rays of grayish-white light flowed around him, turning into a hazy light mist that protected him. He had chosen to retreat with Ning Fengjiao earlier. Regardless of whether he was affected by Wang Lin or not, Yunqing Yudu continued with his previous decision and wouldn't be easily shaken. Under such circumstances, wavering left and right and hesitating would easily worsen one's state of mind and the actual situation. After the consecutive exchanges and Ning Fengjiao's death, Yunqing Yudu was sure that he was most likely not Wang Lin's match. His previous judgment of Wang Lin was still wrong. It was likely that he was also affected by Wang Lin's secret technique, which magnified his arrogant and blind emotions. Now, if Yunqing Yudu were to judge, he was sure that he could make Wang Lin pay in a life-and-death battle. However, if there were no other external forces involved, he would definitely be the one to die. Perhaps Wang Lin was doing the exact opposite, trying to magnify the fear and despair in his heart, causing him to lose his courage and confidence. However, Yunqing Yudu was very calm at the moment. Mental judgment could be inaccurate and influenced by one's emotions, overestimating or underestimating one's opponent. However, the facts in front of him spoke louder than any argument. Right in front of him, Wang Lin easily killed Ning Fengjiao, toying with the two of them in the palm of his hand, making him tired of dealing with them. It didn't matter if Wang Lin had a mysterious ability or a deep mind. The opponent before him was not easy to deal with. At least, Yunqing Yudu knew that if he were in Wang Lin's shoes, he wouldn't be able to do what Wang Lin did. Since that was the case, Yunqing Yudu naturally stuck to his original plan. Of the 36 stratagems, escaping first was the best. Yunqing Yudu could clearly feel Wang Lin's murderous intent. The more the enemy wanted to do something, the more they couldn't get what they wanted. This was an unbreakable truth most of the time. However, Yunqing Yudu didn't lack actual combat experience. Long before the war between the two worlds, he had already dominated Tianhuang mainland. Although he wanted to retreat right now, he didn't panic or retreat. Instead, he advanced step by step, not giving Wang Lin a chance to ambush him. At the same time, he hid a needle in a velvet cloth. If Wang Lin advanced rashly, he wouldn't mind taking advantage of the situation to counterattack. Seeing Yunqing Yudu retreat, a cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. His human-sized return to void Dharma body moved forward in the void. As he moved forward, a black and yellow path appeared under his feet. At the end of the path, there was a dim yellow river that kept surging, but it was silent. It looked contradictory and strange. The river of forgetfulness appeared, and a large amount of Yellow Springs true water surged toward Yunqing Yudu. The dim yellow true water of Yellow Springs true water landed on the demonic light mist that was protecting Yunqing Yudu, and the light mist started to fluctuate violently. The collision between the two sides still didn't make any sound. However, the area where the true water of Yellow Springs true water and the light mist came into contact with each other was eerily separated, as if a vacuum had appeared. In this area, neither the true water of Yellow Springs true water, nor the light mist could fill in the gap. Everything else was annihilated. Not even air existed, let alone dust. The space was constantly twisting and even swallowing light, making it look dark. This area was still expanding, causing the true water of Yellow Springs true water and the grayish-white light mist to slowly disappear. Wang Lin wasn't in a hurry. He used the true water of Yellow Springs, which could purify all things and return them to the origin of heaven and earth, to slowly wear down Yunqing Yudu's protective light mist. If it were any other time, Yunqing Yudu's demonic power would be corroded by the true water of Yellow Springs true water, but it would quickly disperse the true water of Yellow Springs true water and break through. With Yunqing Yudu's demonic power, the losses he suffered would only be a drop in the ocean. However, now that Yunqing Yudu was focused on defense, and Wang Lin was cutting his flesh bit by bit, the situation was completely different. Seeing this, Yunqing Yudu couldn't help but frown. If it was just a competition of strength, he wouldn't mind fighting Wang Lin. Even though Wang Lin's actual combat power was above his due to his divine arts and magic power, if it was just a competition of consumption and foundation, He really wanted to fight with Wang Lin. He wanted to see if Wang Lin, with his Void Return Realm cultivation base, could beat him in this aspect. Even though Wang Lin had the Underworld Pearl, Yunqing Yudu wasn't afraid. However, the black and white cross formed by Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing spell was right there. If his protective light mist and the true water of Yellow Springs' true water wrestled, it would be corroded by the true water of Yellow Springs' true water. If they couldn't communicate and take care of each other, he would be at a great disadvantage after being hit by Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing spell. Thinking about this, Yunqing Yuda's eyes narrowed. Then, the 3 long horns on his head flashed together. With the addition of his magic power, a grayish-white light appeared between his brows. The violent Yudu desert mist spewed out and instantly shot toward Wang Lin. Together with the protective light mist around Yunqing Yudu, they were swept up by the Yudu desert mist and transformed into a huge whirlpool. With the Yudu desert mist as the center, the Yudu desert mist's power gathered, making the Yudu desert mist even more astonishing. The vast and violent grayish-white light instantly pierced through the true water of the Yellow Springs, surrounding cloud-rising Yudu. Even though it was also worn down by the true water of the Yellow Springs, it still broke through the encirclement and shot toward Wang Lin's return to Void Stage Dharma body. Ever since they were defeated by Lin Feng in the war between the two worlds, the Yudu race had been collecting intelligence on Xianmen Tianzong. Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong had officially replaced Taishu Temple and become the focus of all the large demon races. Due to the limited time, the Yudu race wasn't able to collect complete intelligence. Wang Lin had just reached Void Return, and his power had increased tremendously. His strange divine arts had caused Yunqing Yudu and Ning Fengyu to suffer great losses, but Yunqing Yudu still had some understanding of him. Other than Xianmen Tianzong's own Dao skills, he was also proficient in all kinds of techniques of the devil path. He even had the miraculous method of replacing the dead. However, if the Void Return Dharma body was destroyed, or if it was severely injured, even if he had the method of replacing the dead, it was hard to say if it would be effective. If a return to Void Stage cultivator's return to Void Dharma body was completely shattered, their cultivation base would immediately drop. Yunqing Yudu was trying to force Wang Lin to use the heaven-defying fate-changing curse to defend himself, so that he could escape. If Wang Lin didn't use the heaven-defying fate-changing curse to defend himself, then both sides would be heavily injured. Even if Wang Lin had the method of replacing the dead, he wouldn't dare to gamble with his Void Return Dharma body. Light flowed in Wang Lin's eyes, and thousands of lights and shadows flashed together. It was a brand new divine art that he had created using his heavenly Dao scripture as the foundation, merging the techniques of the primitive devil cult and the Buddhism of the Great Thunderclap Monastery to form 2 poles, the Yin and Yang Heart Mantra. The Bodhi Awareness Devil Heart Mudra that he had cast earlier was a miraculous derivative of this mantra. Facing Yunqing Yuda's attack, Wang Lin's expression was calm. His left eye flashed, and the black and white cross in the sky landed, blocking Yunqing Yudu's Yudu desert mist. At the same time, another black and white cross appeared in his right eye and landed on Yunqing Yudu. Seeing this, Yunqing Yudu didn't panic at all. It's done. In one of his eyes, the white halo around his pupil turned from white to black, transforming into a black profound light that shot out. Chapter 1337. Cloud Rising Yudu's Yudu Desert Mist slashed at Wang Lin. Light flashed in Wang Lin's left eye, and the black and white cross in the sky floated down to collect the Yudu Desert Mist. Wang Lin said indifferently, "Return it as it was." He saw the Yudu Desert Mist falling into the vertical flow of black light, like a flood dragon entering the water. It moved forward in the black light, and when the black and white light intersected, it didn't continue to move along the black light. Instead, it suddenly made a turn and entered the horizontal flow of white light. The next moment, the Yudu Desert Mist shot out from the white light, and its target was no longer Wang Lin. Instead, it was Cloud Rising Yudu himself. The scene looked ridiculous, but it was filled with a state of affairs that was hard to change and resist. It wasn't a simple reflection. Even Cloud Rising Yudu himself had a ridiculous feeling when he saw the terrifying grayish-white divine light. It was as if the light wasn't aimed at Wang Lin, but at himself. As Wang Lin had said, return it as it was. This was the fate of the Yudu desert mist, and it couldn't be changed. Even if Cloud Rising Yudu wanted to control the transformation of the Yudu desert mist, he couldn't do it, even if the source of the power was him. However, even though the scene in front of him was strange and absurd, it was still within Cloud Rising Yudu's expectations, so he wasn't surprised. When the Yudu desert mist met Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing curse, he had a rough idea of what would happen. That was why when he saw Wang Lin controlling the black and white cross to land on the Yudu desert mist, Cloud Rising Yudu stopped executing his attack. His demon power circulated to the extreme, and the 3 horns on his head spun. The Yudu desert mist was cut off, and the second one shot out from the heart of his brows. Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing curse was only effective for an instant, but Cloud Rising Yudu managed to cast his spell a second time in a hair's breadth. He used his second beam of Yudu desert mist to face the first beam of grayish-white divine light. This was his personal strongest divine ability. In the blink of an eye, he burst out all his demonic power, wanting to forcefully interrupt the first ray of light, and then immediately release the second ray in such a short time interval. It was not an easy task for him. However, Cloud Rising Yudu displayed his powerful abilities and control over his own power. He successfully blocked the first Yudu desert mist that was twisted by Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing curse. At this moment, in Wang Lin's right eye, a black and white cross light was reflected in his mirror-like pupil. Then, the black and white cross-shaped radiance flew into the void and shrouded Yunsheng Yudu himself. Yunsheng Yudu heaved a sigh of relief. It's done. There was originally a white halo around each of his pupils. He had used up one earlier, and now there was only one left. At this moment, the white halo also turned black, and a mysterious and domineering power flowed out from it. A beam of black profound light shot out and turned into black fog, blocking the black and white cross-shaped radiance that was falling toward Yunsheng Yudu. After blocking 2 of Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing curses, Yunsheng Yudu quickly turned around, and his demonic power burst out at the same time. He broke through the void and sped away, trying to grab hold of this opportunity. Where do you think you're going? At this moment, Wang Lin's indifferent voice echoed between heaven and earth. He looked coldly at the escaping Yunsheng Yudu, and the Taiji diagram at the heart of his brows spun. 2 beams of light rushed out, one black and one white. They quickly formed a third black and white cross-shaped radiance in the void. Yunsheng Yudu, who was about to escape, saw this, and his pupils instantly contracted. His silver-white hair stood on end. This strange curse he can execute not 2, but 3 at the same time. As he thought about it, he wanted to dodge and block Wang Lin's third heaven-defying fate-changing curse, but it was too late. The black and white cross-shaped radiance seemed light and illusory, but it was difficult for Yunsheng Yudu to dodge, and he was directly trapped. At this moment, Wang Lin's cold and emotionless voice rang in his ears. Die. As he said this, Yunsheng Yudu, who was trapped in the white light, suddenly made a turn at the intersection of the black and white light. He was about to fall into the black light. Once he fell, he would follow in Ningfeng Yudu's footsteps. His flesh and demonic soul would collapse together, and he would reach the end of his life. Yudu's brilliant heavenly splendor. At this moment, a beam of fiery red light suddenly shot in from the outside world through the open devil door, and landed on the black and white cross-shaped radiance. When the fiery red light landed on it, the black and white cross-shaped radiance burned fiercely. Yunsheng Yudu, who was trapped in the black and white cross-shaped radiance, shuddered violently. He hurriedly struggled out of the black and white cross-shaped radiance with lingering fear. Inside the devil door, another Yudu beast appeared. Fiery red light patterns flowed all over his body, making him look like he was shrouded in flames. The terrifying demonic aura made even Wang Lin frown. It was much stronger than Yunsheng Yudu. This demon was the strongest of the Yudu race under the end of cultivation, Jingyan Yudu. He was at the beginning of the tribulation, and with his divine arts and magic power alone, he could rival a end of cultivation great demon. Jingyan Yudu stepped into the black and red world from the devil door, and the entire medium-sized world trembled. Heaven and earth cracked, as if it couldn't contain his powerful power. Zenith Heaven. After Jingyan Yudu appeared, he protected Yunsheng Yudu. His gaze didn't land on Wang Lin, but on the unconscious zenith heaven protected by the crocodile god. Yinxing Yudu calmed himself down and looked at Jingyan Yudu without saying a word. After taking a look at zenith heaven, Jingyan Yudu's gaze landed on Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes flickered with flowing lights, but his gaze was cold and indifferent. At this moment, in the black and red world, the great hall far away suddenly trembled violently. Then, a pillar of white clouds rushed into the sky, engulfing the entire hall and swallowing it. The pillar of white clouds was like a tornado as it spun and expanded, gradually occupying the entire black and red world. Like this dimensional realm completely shattered. The power unleashed by the destruction of a medium-sized world was no small matter. The storm formed by the pillar of white clouds was still stirring up the void, sweeping up the heaven and earth of the void battlefield in the outside world. Countless void storms began to spread, and the power of the boundaries that collapsed with the destruction of the medium-sized world was mixed in, forming an incomparably terrifying heaven and earth tide. Such a heaven and earth tide was rare even in the void battlefield. It was rare to see one in many years, and it was rarely formed naturally. Wang Lin, the crocodile god, Zenith Heaven, Jingyan Yudu, Yinxing Yudu, and the others were all swept up. At the center of the storm, white light flashed, pulling Wang Lin towards the center. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, but he didn't resist. He used his magic power to sweep up Zenith Heaven and the ancestral crocodile divine armor, and then fell into the center of the storm. Within the void storm, a deafening roar resounded. The scarlet light seemed to traverse the entire universe, and actually pierce through the void storm. The white clouds dispersed, and Jingyan Yudu, who had 3 horns on his head that flickered with purple and scarlet light, appeared. However, as he tried to get closer to the center of the storm, the power of the storm became even stronger. Even with his divine arts and demon power, he couldn't force his way through. In the end, he could only watch as Wang Lin and the others entered the center of the storm. Then, they instantly disappeared within the distorted void. The sky was filled with fiery red light patterns, isolating the void storm as much as possible, so that Jingyan Yudu could stand still. Yinxing Yudu stood beside him, his expression ugly. It's the 3rd disciple of the master of Mystic Gate, Wang Lin. Ningfeng died by his hands. Jingyan Yudu's expression was as dark as water. After a while he said, "After Granduncle Kong Yuan, there's also Ningfeng." After a moment of silence, Jingyan Yudu suddenly asked, "That's Zenith Heaven, right?" Yinxing Yudu nodded. He knew why Jingyan Yudu had such a reaction. As the strongest of their generation, Jingyan Yudu was the son of Dark Ridge Yudu from back then. After explaining the situation with Zenith Heaven, Jingyan Yudu's expression didn't change. He looked at the void turbulence storm before him. This is the residence of that woman. Zenith Heaven is fighting you, so who activated the magic power restriction here? Could it be that the woman's disciple is also with Xianmen Tianzong? Her Majesty Yuang trusted the wrong person back then. That's why the Master of Mystic Gate and Taishu Temple took advantage of it. Now, even her arrangements might have fallen into the hands of others. Yinxing Yudu frowned. Jingyan Yudu's expression was calm as he said, "I have no intention of criticizing Her Majesty Yu Huang. I'm just curious. What happened to that woman's disciple? If she had selfish motives, she shouldn't have let Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple benefit. That woman and her disciple have too many secrets. Now that there's been a series of changes, she might have ruined the great plans of our race. It's useless to talk about this now. After the storm weakens, let's try to follow the trail," Yinxing Yudu said. "If we're fast enough, we might be able to make it in time." Jingyan Yudu nodded silently. "Let's hope we can make it in time." The 2 great demons of Yudu waited for the storm to weaken before moving closer to the center of the storm. As for Wang Lin and the others, who had been caught in the center of the storm, they had been moved to another part of the void. It was unknown how far they were from their original location. The storm calmed down. Wang Lin spread his magic power and looked at the crocodile god. The crocodile god nodded at him, indicating that the Zenith Heaven immortal realm was fine. Wang Lin's gaze was warm, but then it became calm again. He turned his head to look at the other side. There stood a woman in a white palace dress. It was Ning Wanga. However, the current Ningguang seemed to be a little different from before. Although she was still calm, the Ningguang now no longer had that confused look on her face. Her eyes were clear and as clear as water. However, under this calmness, there was clearly a raging storm. Ningguang met Wang Lin's gaze. Before he could ask, she said, "You can tell me what you want to know on the way. Now let's go to a place first. Time is tight, and it might be too late." Chapter 1338. Hearing Ningguang's words, Wang Lin narrowed his eyes, but he didn't say much. Instead, he simply said, "Lead the way." Ningguang formed a spell with both hands and shot out a white light. The white light flew into the void far away and disappeared without a trace. But Ningguang had already broken through the void and flew in the direction that the white light had pointed. Wang Lin and the crocodile god followed behind her. On the way, Ningguang turned to look at the crocodile god and asked softly, "How is Daoyuo doing?" The crocodile god answered in a deep voice, "Although his injuries have stabilized, they are not light. On the one hand, he was injured by the enemy, but on the other hand, he is also injured. Combining the two, it is not optimistic." He didn't go into details, but Ningguang could sense Daoyuo's general situation. Hearing this, she couldn't help but sigh. "Because of me, Daoyuo has to go through such a disaster." Wang Lin said calmly, "It is also because of me." Then he looked at Ningguang and said, "Now can you tell me what is going on?" Ningguang looked at Daoyuo and said seriously, "For safety reasons, it is best to find a way to send Daoyuo back to the boundless world." Wang Lin's gaze froze. He didn't speak and continued to look at Ningguang. Ningguang added, "The reason why I lost my memory is because of the bone altar in that world. Now, I have recovered my lost memory, but..." Ningguang took a deep breath, and her eyes became solemn. "But I can feel that the heavenly enchantress Great Sage has recovered that part of her memory. Right now, she is probably heading to the same place as us. It is not safe along the way. Because of your battle, the dimensional realm was on the verge of collapse, thus affecting the ritual. We should have been able to directly arrive at our destination, but now we've deviated from our original position. After all, the space in the void battlefield is far too unstable. If there's even the slightest influence, the slightest error will result in 1,000 miles of error." Ningguang's gaze was deep. After the enchantress receives the news, she will probably enter the void battlefield. In a situation where it is difficult to determine her location, it is hard to say who is closer and who is further away. Wang Lin's footsteps didn't stop as he calmly asked, "Where are we going?" Ningguang pursed her lips and answered softly, "In the past, the Yuhuang Heavenly Sea occupied a secret foreign space. It was only connected to the void battlefield, and its location was difficult to determine. There were some arrangements made by the Yuhuang Heavenly Sea to enter the Spirit Sea. After Taoist Daoyuo and the Heavenly Sea Golden Pearl opened the door to the Spirit Sea, it was used to help people enter the Spirit Sea. It's just that those things were still half-finished back then and weren't completed yet." The war between the two worlds erupted, so Yuhuang Celestial Sea left those things in the foreign dimension. Ningguang looked at the void in the distance and said while flying, "But after some time of preparation and sacrificial training, those things will soon be put to use. It's similar to the stone talisman and golden seal he left for fellow Taoist Zenith Heaven." Wang Lin turned to look at Ningguang. Lin Feng and the others didn't tell Ningguang about the specific details of the Spirit Sea and Daoyuo's identity. Daoyuo and Ningguang used to travel together before, so it wasn't surprising that Ningguang knew some things. However, it was impossible for her to know so much about it like she did now. The reason why Ningguang could know so clearly was undoubtedly because she had regained her lost memories. "You are indeed the person that Master said Yuhuang Celestial Sea left behind to guide junior brother Daoyuo," Wang Lin said silently. Ningguang nodded. She looked a little absent-minded. "To be precise, I am and I am not." Wang Lin asked, "What is the relationship between Tianmei and you? Between the two of you, who is the original body and who is the clone?" Ningguang was silent for a while before saying, "Once I was her and she was me. Now I am not her, and she is not me." She turned to look at Wang Lin. then at Daluo, who was protected by the crocodile god. Her gaze was complicated. My master is the mother of Daluo, the wife of Yuhuang Celestial Sea Queen Yu. I was originally a human. My parents died when I was young, and I was injured by my enemies. My physical body was broken, and even my spirit was about to dissipate. My master saved me by chance, but my injuries were too severe. It's not an exaggeration to say that I'm already dead. It's just that my remnant soul is left in the world of the living. Ningguang's gaze was a little empty. It was as if she was staring at the other end of the river of time, at the distant past. My master used a special method to save my life, bringing me back from the brink of death. However, I could no longer be called a human. I should say, I'm a half-demon. When Wang Lin heard this, his expression changed slightly. Half-demon? Ningguang replied. That's right, half-demon. My master used a special ritual to reconstruct my spirit and corporeal body through her own demon power, and the essence of the primordial spirit of a human cultivator. I'm a half-demon that she created. The world filled with black and red just now, the bone altar in the hall, was where I was reborn for the first time. Earlier, Taoist Daluo and I found the foreign space through the stone strips. It was also another residence of my master. After I was reborn, I followed my master to cultivate there for a period of time. Wang Lin looked at her. Your first rebirth? Ningguang laughed self-mockingly. Speaking of which, the second time was also there. Sect leader Lin is right. After Yuhuang Celestial Sea fell, and the Yudu race went into hiding, I stayed in the Great Thousand World to carry out Yuhuang's plan. I helped Taoist Daluo to reincarnate as a member of the Yudu race, opened up the spirit sea, and controlled it. Ningguang's voice was ethereal. Even in the Yudu race, only a few people know of my existence. They only know of my existence, but they don't know my background. In fact, not many people even know of my master's background. It's because of this reason that after the war between the two worlds, no one noticed that Yuhuang had left me as a hidden chess piece. It's not that I didn't have any contact with the outside world, but I kept a low profile. According to Yuhuang and my master's orders, I waited patiently for Taoist Daluo to reincarnate. When the time comes, it should have been like this. Ningguang aside. However, after about 600 years, a change happened to me. It was out of Yuhuang's expectations, out of my master's expectations, and out of my own expectations. Maybe it was the side effect of the ritual. About 500 years after the war between the two worlds ended, there had been no abnormalities. In fact, my spirit, who had cultivated to the realm of star and soul as one, actually started to become unstable. Ningguang's eyes were filled with memories. At that time, her demon soul actually started to split into two different consciousnesses. After nearly 100 years of suppression, she, who still couldn't find a solution, was forced to return to the red-black world. Then, through the skeleton altar and the spell formation in the hall, she tried to perform the ritual that the Nether Empress had performed back then to help her stabilize her spirit. Who knew that the result would be the opposite? Not only did her spirit not get stabilized, but the two consciousnesses actually separated, splitting into a human spirit and a demon soul. What was even more bizarre was that her body even changed. A part of her flesh and blood combined with the essence of the primordial spirit of the human cultivator she had used before, fusing with the spirit, forming a primordial spirit human body. Another part of the flesh and blood fused with the demon power, engraving the demon soul, the true spirit divine runes, changing her bloodline, and completely turning into a demon body. Then, the two bodies were teleported out of the red-black world by the bone altar. At the last moment, even the black crystal left behind by the primordial devil Lord Jiang Zhaoyang in the formation was shattered. When the crystal shattered, all the memories from before also disappeared from Ningguang's mind. As a result, she lost her memories from about 4,000 years ago. She only recovered them today. Ningguang said, that human body was me, and that demon body was the enchantress, who you had interacted with before. When the crocodile god heard this, a look of surprise appeared on his face. But I heard that 4,000 years ago, when you had just split up, the heavenly enchantment great sage started to gradually become famous. You also quickly made a name for yourself. When you had just split up, one of you was at the astral soul fusion realm while the other was at the Tao integration realm. If that's the case, doesn't it mean that we can use this method to create two strong cultivators with the power of one person? Ningguang shook her head. Back then, Master used more than one unique treasure to save me. It is impossible to find another one, let alone collect all of them. When Wang Lin heard this, he thought for a moment and said bluntly, "It's a little unimaginable and unbelievable. However, there's a hint of the primordial heart demon curse in it, so it's not completely impossible. It's just that I don't understand it now." Ningguang laughed bitterly. "I don't understand it either. If I did, such a change wouldn't have happened back then. My master is indeed not someone I can compare to." Wang Lin's gaze landed on her. Silently he looked at her. If it wasn't for such a change back then, the Yudu race would have successfully controlled the Spirit Sea and returned to the Great Thousand World in advance. Ningguang smiled slightly. "I understand what you mean. However, to the current Ningguang, the current situation is more pleasant to see. If there wasn't such a change back then, Mo Yunzi, the disciple of the Nether Empress, would naturally carry out the mission that Yu Huang and my master entrusted to him." She paused for a moment and continued, "However, as for today's the Enchantress, I can't guess what she would think. None of us are each other's avatars. Even though we've recovered our memories, our minds aren't connected, so we can't know each other's thoughts. But just now, when I recovered my memories, I could feel that she also recovered her memories." Chapter 1339. Wang Lin and Ningguang traveled through the void. Slowly, Ningguang said, "After understanding the cause and effect of everything, I finally realized that I don't have to return to the black and red world. As long as either the Enchantress or I devour the other, we can also find the lost memories from 4,000 years ago. However, that would be my third rebirth, the birth of a fourth me, right? It's just that I've been living in seclusion in the Ying Sea all these years, so the two of us have never met." She shook her head. "That day, when I came into contact with her demonic power in the Ying Sea, my spirit became unstable. When the demons reported the situation to the Enchantress, she might not have known the reason, but she must have had many guesses in her heart. If it wasn't for the protection of your master and disciple, the Enchantress would have come to capture me." Wang Lin muttered. "You said that the Enchantress is the same as you, regaining the memories of when you were Moyanzi?" Ningguang nodded. "At that moment I could feel it. I'm sure of it." Wang Lin's expression didn't change, but his eyes flickered. "The Spirit Sea is of great importance. No matter if the Enchantress has her own selfish motives and covets the Spirit Sea, or if she inherited Moyanzi's loyalty to the Yudu race and submitted to the Yudu race, she would definitely treat the remaining arrangements of the Yudu race as her top priority. In that case, the Enchantress might really be rushing to the place we're heading to next." According to Wang Lin's conjecture, the possibility of the former was higher. After all, the Enchantress had been leading the Yudu race for 4,000 years. She was ambitious, searching for all kinds of opportunities to strengthen herself and rise up. Although compared to the Yudu race, she was still weaker, it wasn't enough to make her lose hope. Once ambition was born, it was extremely difficult to get rid of it. People who were used to being the only one in the world would find it hard to be willing to be under someone else, unless the situation forced them to. Even the calm, indifferent and aloof Ningguang considered herself to be herself and Mo Yunzi to be Mo Yunzi, let alone the Enchantress. Unless her power completely crumbled, and she couldn't see any hope of making a comeback, the possibility of her returning to Yudu clan was so small that it was negligible. On the contrary, if the Yudu race found out about her identity, the relationship between her and the Yudu race wouldn't be harmonious. Perhaps they would have limited, temporary cooperation on certain matters, but among all the powerful races in Tianhuang Wasteland, the one that the Enchantress's forces were the most at odds with was undoubtedly the Yudu race. Wang Lin suddenly recalled that when the war between the two worlds had just ended, his master, Lin Feng, had once mentioned something while they were chatting. "The Yudu race has returned to the boundless worlds. I'm afraid someone in Heaven Wasteland will have to deal with them first." At that time his senior and junior brothers hadn't understood, but thinking back now, Wang Lin understood something. Lin Feng's words might have been referring to the enchantress. Wang Lin looked at Ning Wanga. The enchantress, or Mo Yunzi. What exactly is the innate divine art of his race? What's his foundation? Ning Wanga said. Mo Yunzi of the past and the enchantress of today. The source of his demon power and the foundation of his demon soul all came from my master, Queen Yu. Other than the first chapter of the Heavenly Dao Demon Scriptures, he has cultivated all the other chapters. When I cultivated to the primordial true spirit realm back then, my true spirit divine markings engraved my demon soul and corporeal body, transforming me into a demon like my master. My foundation wasn't that of an ordinary life form, but a cloud and mist. When Ning Wanga said that, he paused for a moment and continued. Although I don't know my master's foundation, I have a vague feeling that my master isn't a pure demon, but she's a half-demon like me back then. When Wang Lin heard that, his eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't say anything. Ning Wanga continued. Specifically, in terms of innate divine arts, Mo Yunzi of the past and the enchantress of today are similar to my master. There are 3 main points. The first is to hide. Even those with much higher cultivation would find it difficult to see through the heavenly enchantment saint's foundation. One must reach a certain limit. However, with the heavenly enchantment saint's current cultivation in the Dharma-ending realm, I'm afraid no one in the great heaven primordial world can see through him. Ning Wanga said. This also applies to concealment. The enchantress's ability to conceal herself is probably stronger than Gu Qi and the rest of the demon race, or even Golden Cicada. My master's death back then was not due to her own strength. Secondly, in this war between the 2 realms, she was forced to use the divine art by sect leader Lin. That is, she can self-destruct her original real body. Although her vitality will be greatly damaged, she is different from other demons. Clouds and mist gather and disperse randomly, and there is a chance for her to recuperate and recover. She can use it in a fight to the death, and its power is far beyond her original divine arts and Dharma power. Ning Wanga continued. Thirdly, the speed of recovery during the tribulation is far faster than others. For everyone, the most dangerous and difficult hurdle to overcome in the first tribulation period, and even in the middle tribulation period, is always the first tribulation. This is the same for my master and the enchantress, and the impact is even more obvious. Most importantly, as long as they successfully go through the first tribulation, the difficulty of the subsequent tribulations will be greatly reduced. Moreover, the period of weakness after the tribulation is very short, which is even more powerful than Golden Cicada's Golden Cicada shedding. However, their flesh and blood can't help other demons recover from the period of weakness after the tribulation. Of course, because they have always concealed their tracks, not many people know about this. When Wang Lin heard this, he frowned. Even so, he can actually completely go through the first tribulation and reach the last day's realm in just a few years in the boundless world? Even if we assume that the enchantress didn't go through many tribulations, his speed is still too fast. Ning Wanga shook his head. I've heard about the situation you mentioned. Under normal circumstances, it's indeed impossible to be so fast. Even my master couldn't do it back then. I think the enchantress must have had other fortuitous encounters. When Wang Lin heard this, his heart suddenly moved, and he thought of something else. During the war between the 2 worlds, Xianmen Heavenly Sect and the Great Void Temple were on the same path in the human cultivation world of the Divine Prefecture. Even though Xianmen Heavenly Sect and the Great Void Temple weren't on good terms, they still communicated with each other. The news of Yudu race returning to the Boundless Worlds was reported to White Cloud Mountain by Xianmen Heavenly Sect at the first instance. As for the master of the dragon race, Tenryu Zhen, recovering from the period of weakness after going through the tribulation at a speed that far exceeded expectations, Taishu Temple also informed Xianmen Tianzong and the others in the Divine Land. The innate talents of the dragon race were strong, especially the pure-blooded primordial heavenly dragons, which were far above the other dragon races. This was something that was publicly acknowledged. However, The innate divine arts of the dragon race never included the ability to quickly recover from the period of weakness after going through the tribulations. It was naturally impossible for the enchantress to help the dragon race. However, if the enchantress had a fortuitous encounter, did the dragon race have the same harvest back then? Wang Lin didn't care where the harvest came from. What he cared about was whether there was a follow-up. There was no need to worry about the enchantress. She still had a long way to go before going through the tribulation. However, if Tenryu Gen was prepared to go through the second tribulation without falling, would he start a new tribulation soon? If he went through another tribulation, his recovery time might still be very short. Wang Lin pondered for a moment. He communicated with the clone of the Great Devil that had been swapped back to the Ocean of Seas of Marsh by the void technique of two worlds, and told Lin Feng everything he knew. After that, Wang Lin looked at Ningguang and said, "Let's hurry to the place you mentioned. We'll bring junior brother Daluo along. Although the crocodile god's abilities aren't ordinary, the situation now is special. If we bring junior brother Daluo back alone, we might end up in trouble. Second senior brother and little junior brother are rushing over to meet up with us." Hearing that Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao were coming, Ningguang nodded. With Zhu Yi and the Permitha Golden Bridge, there wouldn't be a problem against Jing Yan and Yudu, whose abilities were comparable to the great demon of the last days. More importantly, with the Permitha Golden Bridge, even if they met the enchantress, they wouldn't have to fear the last day's calamity. Ningguang said. To escape from Sect Master Lin, the enchantress disintegrated her true form. Even if she's talented, she shouldn't be able to recover in a short time. However, even if the enchantress and the Yudu race are enemies, it's not impossible for them to work together. However, we'll have to wait for them to meet. The crucial thing is, we don't know where the enchantress is now. If they met the enchantress first, and Zhu Yi and the Permitha Golden Bridge hadn't arrived yet, Wang Lin and Ningguang would be in an awkward situation. Just comparing the demon power of divine arts, Jing Yan and Yudu were superior to the enchantress, who couldn't reveal her true form. However, to Wang Lin, the enchantress was a bigger threat. If he were to face Jing Yan and Yudu, he could at least put up a fight. However, if he were to face the enchantress, who was willing to bear a last day's calamity, it would be hard for him to deal with him. Wang Lin said, "There's no point in talking too much. Let's hurry." Ningguang nodded slightly and took the lead. Not to mention the enchantress, Jing Yan and Yun Qingyu would also try their best to catch up after the storm subsided. The two of them broke through space in the battlefield in the void and flew all the way. Suddenly, the white light in front of them stopped. "We're here," Ningguang said, but then her expression changed slightly. "Someone beat us to it." She waved her hand, and in the dark void in front of them, a chaotic brilliance suddenly appeared. It was as if the void was covered by a thin veil. Stimulated by Ningguang's magic power, it instantly rippled like water. Ningguang took a deep breath. "It's the heavenly enchantress." Wang Lin revealed his return to void stage body, and his eyes were like mirrors from which streaks of vibrant light flashed, presenting different images. At this moment, in Wang Lin's eyes, under the misty brilliance in front of him, the entrance of the realm passage could be vaguely seen. Around the entrance of the realm passage, there were rays of purple brilliance intertwining with white clouds. The magic power restriction at the entrance of the realm passage had already been dispelled, and the chaotic and colorful light screen outside was set up by someone else. Even if someone passed by, they wouldn't be able to discover the entrance of the realm passage. Only Ningguang, who also knew this place, would be able to detect the entrance of the realm passage. When he and Ningguang passed through the light screen, the enchantress would naturally notice them in the foreign space on the other side of the realm passage. Chapter 1340. Wang Lin looked at the blurry light screen in front of him. His expression didn't change, but his eyes were full of colors. Ningguang looked at him from the side. "Where are Daoist Zhu and Daoist Shi now?" Wang Lin's tone was calm. "It's not easy to communicate in the void battlefield. I can't be sure yet." He stared at the light screen in front of him for a moment. Suddenly, a black and white cross appeared in his eyes and projected into reality. It was mysterious, strange, and overbearing. Ning Wanga was slightly stunned. Taoist Wang Yu, Wang Lin said plainly. Although the enchantress was severely injured because of my master, she could activate the Dharma-ending catastrophe. It's not easy to fight her. I can't compare to my master in terms of the void technique of the two realms, and the space environment of the void battlefield is too strange and complicated. Although I can replace my original body with the great demon doppelganger, I can't borrow the divine prefecture cauldron from my master and bring it here. In that case, let's just destroy this place, along with the things left behind by the Yuhuang Celestial Sea in the foreign dimension. Ning Wanga heard that and couldn't help but look at Wang Lin. Although she had a certain understanding of Wang Lin because of what happened in the Yuhuang dream world in the Ying Sea, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. His ruthlessness and decisiveness caused others to be unable to help but look askance at him. Since someone had already gotten it before them, and they didn't have enough confidence to deal with them, they might as well go their separate ways. No one would get what they wanted. After the Spirit Sea opened again, Xianmen Tianzong, the Yudu race, and the Taishu Temple would have a chance. Wang Lin, Ningwanga, and the rest came here to give their Xianmen Tianzong a better chance. If they couldn't get what was in the foreign dimension, Xianmen Tianzong wouldn't lose anything. This time, Zenith Heaven and Ningwanga entered the void battlefield and investigated everything. They understood the roots of the enchantress, so they didn't return empty-handed. Although Gran Lua was injured, Wang Lin had also killed Ning Feng of the Yudu clan. But for the enchantress, even if she had a happy event at home and recovered her lost memories because of Ningwanga, it would be difficult for her to intervene in the matter of the spiritual ocean if she couldn't get the thing in the foreign space this time. Even if she could find another way, whether she could make it in time was a problem that had to be considered. Ningwanga looked at Wang Lin and opened her mouth, but she couldn't say anything. The enchantress had obviously been in the foreign dimension for a long time, but he still hadn't left. It was obvious that it wasn't easy to take something out of it. Most likely, there were some magic power restrictions that had to be broken with skill, and couldn't be destroyed with brute force. Thus, he could only slowly grind away. With Wang Lin's current magical powers, he could even destroy a dimensional realm with ease, much less a foreign space. The enchantress would most likely be fine, but it would be difficult for her to protect the thing in the foreign space since her vitality was greatly injured. Wang Lin executed the heaven-defying fate-changing mantra, and the light of the black and white cross grew bigger and bigger in the void. In the end, it seemed to occupy the entire void battlefield. The light directly overpowered the magic power restrictions that the enchantress had set up outside, shrouding the entrance of the foreign space along with the misty light outside. Under the shroud of the white light, the space kept twisting and changing. A foreign space that looked like a gourd gradually appeared in the void. Then, it looked like a gourd had fallen into a river, floating in the white light. Intense consciousness waves came from the foreign space, and vast and powerful demonic power emerged from it. A voice echoed in the void. Extreme High Venerable Wang Lin? The voice was hoarse and deep, and it was the voice of the enchantress. Her subordinate, the great sage Zhu Jian, had perished under Wang Lin's heaven-defying fate-changing mantra. Although this was the first time the enchantress had personally seen it, she could instantly recognize it. At the same time, she had also quickly understood her opponent's intentions. Ruthless, decisive, not greedy, not hesitant, and not giving the enemy any leeway. All of these were Wang Lin's style of doing things. After the war between the two realms, the enchantress already knew that there was still a fight between her and Xianmen Tianzong. As Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and the others grew stronger, Xianmen Tianzong's power would also grow stronger. After the battle with Zhu Honggu, Zhu Yi had refined his spirit to return to the void. Now, as soon as she came into contact with Wang Lin's magic power, the enchantress had already sensed that another disciple under Lin Feng had successfully reached the Void Return Realm. Figures like Zhu Yi and Wang Lin had reached the Void Return Realm, and their strength couldn't be measured by other standards. Wang Lin calmly watched the foreign space that looked like a gourd floating in the white light. Hearing the enchantress's voice, his expression didn't change at all. Silently he said, "Quietus." As soon as his voice fell, the foreign space turned toward the black light at the intersection of the black and white cross. As soon as it entered the black light, the foreign space suddenly began to decay and collapse, like a real gourd beginning to decay. Not only did the foreign space collapse on the outside, but everything inside the space also began to move toward the end of the world. Spiritual qi dissipated, and all things were destroyed. At this moment, a gray mist suddenly spewed out from the entrance of the foreign space's domain passageway like the mouth of a gourd, and then quickly covered the entire foreign space. Protected by these gray clouds and mist, the big gourd-like foreign space suddenly no longer continued to float up and down, nor did it drift along with the black light. Instead, it was forcibly fixed in place, and the black light also seemed to have come to a standstill. The foreign space that was originally collapsing stabilized a little at this moment. Within the gray clouds and mist, there were bright lightning-like streams of light constantly shuttling back and forth in the depths of the clouds. Under the protection of the clouds and mist, this foreign space seemed to have escaped the fate of destruction. But looking closely, one could see that the clouds and mist were constantly rolling, and that the foreign space was still gradually moving toward the end of destruction. Although the speed had slowed down a lot, it was still clearly visible. Silently looking at the gourd-like foreign space and the gray clouds and mist that wrapped around it, Wang Lin's expression did not change in the slightest. He could feel that although the enchantress was not good at reversing fate, karma, and the way of mind, but at this moment, he had more experience in dealing with the heaven-defying fate-changing curse than others. Presumably, because of the strange death of great sage Yu Jian, the heaven-defying fate-changing curse was strange and overbearing. Even the enchantress was concerned. However, this could not stop Wang Lin from destroying the foreign space. Even the gray clouds and mist formed by the enchantress's demonic power, because of protecting the foreign space at this moment, were constantly being destroyed under the influence of the heaven-defying fate-changing curse. The enchantress had the ability to protect herself, and if there was really no other way, she could withdraw in time, but to protect this foreign space was much more difficult. If she could manifest her true form, it would naturally be a different situation. Unfortunately, although her talent was extraordinary and different from other great demons of the end of cultivation, it was also beyond the power of the enchantress to reconstruct her true form in such a short time. To protect this foreign space, the enchantress had the 12 sacred heavens' wonderful flower formation with her. But when he first arrived here, when he saw that the enchantress did not use the formation to protect the foreign space, Wang Lin already knew that the enchantress did not bring the 12 sacred heavens' wonderful flower formation with her this time. Since that was the case, Wang Lin naturally would not be polite. Even if the other demons under the enchantress accompanied him to protect him, after he successfully refined his spirit to return to the void, they would not be able to stop him, unless the enchantress had other unknown trump cards. But judging from the current situation, at least there was no such trump card at the moment. The enchantress also clearly saw the situation in front of her. She did not show the slightest annoyance or anger, but instead smiled faintly. I have already taken half of the things. Although I want to take as much as possible, this trip has not been in vain. If you want to destroy this foreign space, then destroy it. I already have the opportunity to enter the spirit sea. The gray clouds on the surface of the gourd-shaped foreign space began to shrink rapidly, and then a brilliance flew out from the entrance of the domain passage that looked like the mouth of the gourd-shaped mouth. I really can't stop you from destroying this foreign space, but I don't know face to face. Do you have enough courage? The enchantress's tone was indifferent, and as she said this, the brilliance that rushed out from the foreign space gradually condensed into a figure. This figure looked like the figure of a woman, but it was blurry, and only a rough outline could be seen. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed slightly. At this moment, he still had a chance to retreat when the enchantress had just come out from the foreign space. The enchantress didn't have time to use the last day's calamity to make him stay. However, if what the enchantress said was true, that the treasures in the foreign space were placed separately, and she had already obtained a portion of them, obtained the chance to enter the spirit sea when it reopened in the future. In that case, the situation would become much more chaotic. Xianmen Tianzong, Yudu tribe, and Taishu temple were fighting, and it was not impossible for the enchantress to fish in troubled waters. If she wanted to hide in the spirit sea and wait for a chance to make her move, It would not be impossible. In that case, with one side losing and the other gaining, it would naturally add unnecessary trouble to Xianmen Tianzong, and that foreign space would be annihilated along with the remaining treasures inside. If Xianmen Tianzong didn't have any extra gains to make up for the losses that the enchantress might bring, then this trip would undoubtedly be a loss. However, the enchantress had given up on the foreign space and came out to make things difficult for Wang Lin, and it was hard for Wang Lin to deal with her. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, and the huge black and white cross suddenly swayed and dispersed by itself in the void. That foreign space once again hid in the void, making it hard for people to see it clearly. Only the entrance of the world passage that led into the foreign space floated in the dark void. The enchantress didn't have the intention to continue entering the foreign space to break the restrictions and obtain more treasures. Otherwise, if she sold her back to Wang Lin, it would just be a repeat of what happened before. The enchantress, who had already made up her mind, wasn't one to hesitate and drag her feet. Even if Wang Lin didn't make a move, she would just destroy this foreign space and the remaining treasures. Chapter 1341. When Wang Lin saw that the enchantress had decisively come out from the foreign dimension, he knew that what she had said was true. The treasures left behind in the foreign dimension were indeed placed separately, and the enchantress had most likely already broken through a few of the restrictions and obtained some of the treasures. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for the enchantress to come out now. Although she could force Wang Lin to retreat, as long as Wang Lin stayed far away and continued to stare at her, she wouldn't be able to return and continue to take the treasures. When she entered the foreign dimension, Wang Lin would come over again to destroy the foreign dimension. When she came out, Wang Lin would retreat again. With the treasures in the foreign dimension as bait, if the enchantress wanted to take the treasures, she might have to face such an awkward situation. However, now that the enchantress had come out from the foreign dimension without hesitation, and even showed signs of destroying the foreign dimension, Wang Lin and Ningwanga knew that the enchantress had at least obtained some of the treasures. With some of the treasures, this trip wasn't in vain. The enchantress now had a lot more choices. She could advance or retreat. She also didn't lack decisiveness and could also control her greed. It would naturally be best if she could obtain more treasures, or even all the treasures. However, since Wang Lin and Ningwanga had already arrived, she wouldn't be reluctant to leave. That was why she handed the initiative to Wang Lin, and let Wang Lin lead her by the nose. Wang Lin looked at the enchantress and frowned slightly. His mirror-like eyes flickered with a faint light. As the light flowed, countless scenes appeared. The enchantress was enveloped in a misty light. Only a pair of eyes could be seen clearly, like bright stars. Her gaze swept past Wang Lin, and then landed on Ningwanga. Silently, she said, "We can stand together face to face. It's really magical." At this moment, Ningwanga was dressed in a white palace robe, revealing her true appearance. She was no longer shrouded in colorful flowing lights. The enchantress looked at her. His body was chaotic and indistinct. The cloud-like scene quietly changed, and the fog gradually dispersed. Similarly, the appearance of a young woman was revealed. She was dressed in gray, and her face was peerless. His facial features were exactly the same as Ningwanga's, as if they were the same person. Seeing her like this, Wang Lin and Ningwanga's eyes flickered. At the same time, they thought of the gray-clothed woman that Ningwanga had projected herself into when she fell into the illusion that Wang Lin had set up. Now it seemed that it was indeed the deepest knot in Ningwanga's heart, that even she herself didn't realize when she lost her memory. Her greatest threat, her greatest opponent, was herself, or rather, her other self. If she and the enchantress didn't find the black and red world and the bone altar to restart the ritual, then the greatest opportunity for them to regain their memory would be when they met, and one of them would devour and refine the other. Ningwanga was about to speak, but the enchantress's gaze froze. The smile on her face faded a little, and her gaze suddenly turned to Wang Lin. She stared at Wang Lin's eyes carefully and said as if nothing had happened, "This spell is really magical. But how did you manage to integrate the Buddhism spell and the secret method of the primitive devil cult?" Although the devil Buddha Wu Bei was a powerful Buddhist who entered the devil path, His situation was different from yours. Your sect's heavenly law virtue scripture is indeed magical. Hearing this, Wang Lin's expression didn't change. His eyes were still flashing with a seemingly ordinary but mysterious brilliance. His yin and yang heart mantra was executed without any signs and was silent, causing the opponent to fall into it unknowingly and be affected without noticing. However, the enchantress's power was extraordinary after all. Although he was affected, he quickly regained his composure, Even if he couldn't manifest his true form, the cultivation declining great demon was still a cultivation declining great demon. Yunqing Yudu and Ningfeng Yu couldn't compare to him. The enchantress looked at Wang Lin and narrowed her eyes. Although she didn't know that Jingyan Yudu and Yunqing Yudu were following behind Wang Lin and Ning Wanga, when she saw Wang Lin now, she couldn't help but worry if there would be others in Xianmen Tianzong, especially if the master of Xianmen, Lin Feng, would arrive. Lin Feng's true body was guarding the divine land with the heaven-punishing sword and wouldn't leave easily. The ones who had a tacit understanding with him were Tenryu Zhen, and the current clan master of the Yudu race, Mirage Sun Yudu, who didn't enter the divine land. At the same time, the Enchantress Great Saint herself, the Tongtian Great Saint, the Zhu Yen Great Saint, the Kunlun Dragon King, the Shun Dragon King, and the other demons of the Age of Cultivation would not enter the human world of the divine land unless it was absolutely necessary. After Xianmen Tianzong got rid of Liang Pan, Zhu Honggu, and the other cultivation declining great demons, they couldn't enter the human world of the divine land, no matter how unwilling they were. This was because Lin Feng's true body and the heaven-punishing sword hadn't made a move. However, no one could be sure that Lin Feng wouldn't leave the divine land. After all, relatively speaking, Lin Feng had the upper hand. To the enchantress, getting rid of Wang Lin as soon as possible was the right thing to do. Under normal circumstances, how would she be in the mood to chat with Ning Wanga? Even if she had something to say to Ning Wanga, she would do it after capturing her and leaving this place. However, just now, the enchantress realized that some thoughts in her heart couldn't be suppressed and were magnified unknowingly. This made her instantly alert. From ancient times until now, among the strong demons, the one who understood the primitive devil cult the most was undoubtedly Queen Yu. Even more than Yu Huang Heavenly Sea, who didn't care much about it. As her disciple Moyanzi, who was also the crystallization of Queen Yu's efforts to figure out demon spells, also had some understanding of the primitive devil cult. Although it was very different, the enchantress, who was knowledgeable, quickly found out where the problem was and even saw some of the tricks of Wang Lin's yin and yang heart mantra. However, Wang Lin's yin and yang heart mantra was indeed mysterious and unpredictable. The enchantress couldn't see through it. Although she regained her composure, the yin and yang heart mantra bewitched her incorporeal mind. She might fall for it again at any time. The enchantress came to her senses and didn't say anything more. She stared at Wang Lin and a disastrous aura appeared on her body, as if the creation of heaven and earth had come to an end. The formless black gas was faintly discernible. It seemed illusory and real at the same time, pervading the void. Even in a chaotic space like the void battlefield, there was a sense of decay at this moment. Wang Lin's expression didn't change at all. When the enchantress broke free from the yin and yang heart mantra and regained her composure, Wang Lin had already taken Ning Wanga and retreated, instantly escaping far away. Seeing this, the enchantress's pupils shrank slightly. Wang Lin's fearless, cold and cruel style was now widely known. Whether it was in the divine land or in the infinite region, even in the face of the Dharma-ending calamity, or in the face of opponents stronger than himself, Wang Lin was not a person who would easily retreat and admit defeat. But at this moment he didn't hesitate to escape far away, obviously because he didn't want to pay an unnecessary price. Since he was behaving like this, it meant, in the blink of an eye, the enchantress's figure suddenly turned into a cloud of gray mist. Then as the void shook, a magnificent golden light burst out, traversing the entire dark void, making the vast and directionless void battlefield feel distant. As the mighty golden light shuttled back and forth, 8 colorful halos shrouded it. Heavenly flowers danced in the sky, creating a magnificent scene. It was the Permitha Golden Bridge. On the Golden Bridge stood a 30-foot tall figure, wearing a high crown and ancient clothes. He held a scroll in his hand, and a Tai Chi pattern kept circling on his forehead. It was Zhu Yi, who had manifested the Dharma body of the void return. Beside Zhu Yi stood a tall young man with a smile on his face. It was Shi Tianhao. Wherever the golden light of the Permitha Golden Bridge reached, the gray mist was instantly broken. Seeing them, the enchantress knew that today's matter was over. He couldn't care less about destroying the gourd-like foreign space. Flowing lights flashed in the gray mist. An array of light immediately sped into the distance. At the same time, in the void far away, a fiery red light flashed and burned through the darkness, revealing the giant bodies of Jingyan Yudu and Yunxing Yudu. The enchantress's figure slightly paused, and he stood side by side with Jingyan Yudu and the others. Although their relationship couldn't be said to be harmonious, Xianmen Tianzong was clearly stronger, so the enchantress and Jingyan Yudu didn't mind standing on the same side. The demon power of both sides collided with Zhu Yi's Permitha Golden Bridge through the void, and another void storm was about to be stirred up. Jingyan Yudu's abilities far surpassed those at the beginning of the tribulation. His demon power was so strong that he could even clash head-on with Zhu Yi and the Permitha Golden Bridge. The enchantress and Yunxing Yudu, on the other hand, even had a slight advantage against Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, and Ning Wanga, who didn't have creation treasures. However, it was a pity that both sides couldn't truly work together. Zhu Yi stood on the Permitha Golden Bridge and said calmly, Tianmei is the person that Yuhuang Celestial Sea entrusted to stay in the Great Thousand Worlds when your Yudu race went into hiding. Hearing this, although Jingyan Yudu and Yunxing Yudu didn't move, their gazes froze. Ning Wanga, on the other hand, landed beside the entrance of the foreign world and said casually, a portion of the things inside fell into the hands of the enchantress. Before he finished speaking, the heavenly enchantress Great Sage, who had transformed into a streak of light, suddenly flashed in the void, and then instantly continued to fly away. Dream Immortal, Ningwanga, are these the names you gave yourself? I hope we have the chance to have a long talk. The enchantress's hoarse voice echoed in the space for a long time. Jingyan Yudu and Yunxing Yudu took a deep look at Wang Lin and the others, then slowly retreated and disappeared into the crack in the void. The fiery red light dissipated, and the crack gradually closed up. Shi Tianhao stood on the Permitha Golden Bridge, and tilted his head slightly. Should we give chase? The word E above Zhu Yi's head flashed with light, and countless rays of light twirled in Wang Lin's eyes. Both of them shook their heads at the same time. No, there's a Yudu in the end of Dharma realm in the void battlefield. We can't determine its location, but it's undoubtedly heading here. Shi Tianhao nodded and jumped off the Permitha Golden Bridge, entering the foreign world. Then let's go get the things first. Chapter 1342. Take this with you. Wang Lin flicked his finger, and a stream of purple light landed in Shi Tianhao's hand. It was something that looked like a ring. It was the ring that Grand Luo had brought into the void battlefield. The one left behind by Yuhuang Celestial Sea. Previously, Grand Luo had used it to deal with Cloud Ascending Yudu, but Cloud Ascending Yudu had used a secret art to replace it. After that, Grand Luo had been gravely injured. When Wang Lin had rushed over, he had kept Grand Luo along with the ring. The foreign dimension before them was related to Yuhuang Celestial Sea. Shi Tianhao wanted to enter to break the restrictions and obtain the treasure, so Wang Lin had passed the ring to him. Shi Tianhao accepted the ring and entered the dimensional passageway. Apart from him, Ningwanga also entered the foreign dimension that looked like a bottle gourd. Meanwhile, Zhu Yi and Wang Lin remained outside to prevent others from entering. Zhu Yi looked at Wang Lin and cupped his hands at Wang Lin. Congratulations, third junior brother, for successfully refining your spirit to return to the void and achieving a void return conjured physique. Wang Lin cupped his hands in return. A hint of warmth appeared in his calm eyes. Second senior brother, you're too kind. Zhu Yi turned his gaze towards Grand Luo, who was under the care of the crocodile god. After looking for a moment, he frowned slightly. He's exceeded his limits by too much. I'm afraid he'll need a long time to recuperate. Luckily, third junior brother, you were right beside him and helped him stabilize his injuries. Otherwise, it would have worsened. As he spoke, he flicked his finger lightly. The clear and melodious cry of a phoenix rang out. A phoenix silhouette formed by flowing light appeared in the void. It circled continuously, and there were flames burning on the surface of its body. Within the flames, there was the profound aura of a phoenix's nirvana and rebirth. This phoenix formed by flames landed on Grand Luo's body and helped stabilize his injuries. Among Lin Feng's disciples, apart from Shi Tianhao, who possessed the divine light of origin, Xiaoyan, Wang Lin, Yang Qing, and Luo Qinggu all cultivated healing divine arts. Among them, Xiaoyan and Wang Lin were more inclined towards the Tao foundation of the spirit, while Yang Qing and Luo Qingwu's divine arts were more inclined towards healing damage to the essence of blood. Zhu Yi's Phoenix Nirvana mantra was also inclined towards the latter. Right, and Yang Qing and Luo Qingwu's divine arts were more inclined towards healing damage to the essence of blood. Wang Lin said, "Senior Brother Grand Luo and I have the elixir refined by Senior Brother Grand Luo with us. We've already helped him consume it and neutralize the medicinal effects." Zhu Yi nodded. "That's good. I've already heard about what happened from Master. If there are no accidents, I'll need third junior brother to send junior brother Grand Luo back to the Great Thousand Worlds." "Oh, you and little junior brother have other matters to discuss?" Wang Lin asked. The Tao-changing talisman above Zhu Yi's head flickered as he answered. "The changes in the immortal Dragon City are gradually coming to an end. The spirit chi fluctuations are gradually stabilizing. I can vaguely sense that the treasure has entered this empty sea from the void." Wang Lin's eyes flickered. "Oh, has the Great Qin dynasty already dealt with the Swanni? In the war between the two worlds, Emperor Qin Shiyu had fallen, and the creation treasure, the immortal Dragon City, was lost in the void. The Kunlun Dragon King, Zhu Yi, and the others were unable to retrieve it on the spot. In the end, the silent immortal Dragon City disappeared from the void. Its trace is hard to find. The mark that Emperor Qin Shiyu had left on the immortal Dragon City had completely disappeared. Although the Great Qin dynasty had been controlling and refining the immortal Dragon City, it was very difficult for them to find the treasure now. As for the dragon races Tianlong Kuan and Zhu Yi, they had both left some marks on the immortal Dragon City. After the immortal Dragon City's mutation ended, and the spiritual qi fluctuations stabilized, they could attempt to search for them. Previously, when Xianmen Tianzong had defeated the Great Zhou dynasty's dethroned Emperor Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu, the Great Qin dynasty had also come to negotiate with the newly ascended Emperor Liang Qian. Apart from this, the Great Qin dynasty paid attention to another matter. They wanted to get the Swanni Great Sage from the Great Zhou dynasty. During the war between the two worlds, the Swanni Great Sage had ambushed the Great Qin dynasty's Rose Sun monarch Shizong Mao and the other Great Qin cultivators, heavily injuring Shizong Mao. This caused the dragon race's Queen Ning Dragon King to come out and quickly return to the battlefield where the Kuan Dragon King, Blue Sky Dragon King, Zhu Yi, Stonefeather, and the others were. She had heavily injured Emperor Stonefeather, and worked together with the Blue Sky Dragon King to kill him. If Queen Ning Dragon King had not been there, no one could be sure whether Emperor Stonefeather would have been able to survive. However, Queen Ning Dragon King had at least sped up Qin Yu's defeat. The Great Qin dynasty naturally hated the dragon race to the bone. The Great Zhou dynasty and the Swanni Great Sage were the same. The Great Zhou dynasty's ancient grid cloud world had suddenly been sealed many years ago. The outside world said that this dimensional world was too ancient, and its resources had been exhausted. Its spirit chi was thin, and it was about to be destroyed. Previously, it had not attracted much attention, but now, the Great Qin dynasty was filled with suspicion. After Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others had acted against Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu, the Great Qin dynasty's cultivators had immediately blocked their way. Although the ancient grid cloud world was empty, the Great Qin dynasty's cultivators had still found some clues. After the war between the two worlds had ended, in order to avoid suspicion, Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu had arranged for the Swanni Great Sage to be moved. However, Xianmen Tianzong had come too quickly. After all, time was short. The Great Qin dynasty's cultivators had searched diligently. Following some clues, they had found the Swanni Great Sage's whereabouts. Hearing Wang Lin's question, Zhu Yi answered, That's right. He has been successfully killed. The Great Qin dynasty's new emperor Shizongtong had left behind a clone with a low cultivation in Tianjing City to negotiate with the Great Zhou dynasty's new emperor Lianggan. Then he had personally rushed to where Shizongmao was. A group of Great Qin experts had blocked the Swanni Great Sage. After paying a considerable price, they had finally surrounded and killed the Swanni Great Sage. Zhu Yi tapped lightly on the Permitha Golden Bridge and continued, I have already informed the Great Qin dynasty of the Immortal Dragon City's gradual recovery. They have the right to know. However, the outcome may not be as they wish. Back then, when Daoist Shiryu's sacrificial ceremony failed, the changes caused were truly unexpected. Regarding this speculation, when the war between the two worlds had just subsided, Zhu Yi had already shared the information he had with his master, Lin Feng, and his fellow disciples. Hearing this, Wang Lin nodded. It's no wonder that even Master expressed surprise. Zhu Yi said, yes. However, be it the Great Qin dynasty's cultivators or us, we still have to rush over. The changes in the Immortal Dragon City must have been felt by Tianlong Kuan and the dragon experts. Because of Master, Tenryu Zhen does not dare to step out of the Xianhai Sea, so there is no need to consider it. However, Tianlong Kuan and Tianlong Shen are both pure-blooded heavenly dragons in the age of Dharma decline. If they leave the Xianhai Sea together, their strength cannot be underestimated. Wang Lin said, according to your estimation that day, it should not be so fast. Now that it is earlier than expected, it should be because the Immortal Dragon City entered the void battlefield and came into contact with a space with a faster time flow? Yes, Zhu Yi acknowledged, that should be the case. However, it is still some distance from true recovery. The closer it is to complete recovery, the more stable the spiritual chi fluctuations are. It will be easier for us or the dragon race to follow the clues and find it. However, if we continue to stay in the void battlefield, it will not be easy. A large-scale void storm might cause all our previous efforts to go to waste. However, I have refined my spirit to return to the void, and I have mastered the basic mastery of essence transformation. I am confident that I will be faster than the dragon race. Wang Lin said, I have gained quite a lot from entering the void battlefield this time. It should be useful for you and little junior brother. Among the fellow disciples, especially among the four who had entered the sect the earliest, the relationship between Wang Lin and Zhu Yi was relatively indifferent. This stemmed from the difference in their viewpoints and personalities. However, after being in the same sect for so many years, they did not have any conflicts after spending so much time together. Although they did not see eye to eye on certain matters, they appreciated each other more and more. However, even when they had different opinions, they would not waver in their opinions. When they analyzed and exchanged Dao techniques, it was the two of them who had the most discussions. One was knowledgeable and knowledgeable, while the other was knowledgeable and knowledgeable. The two of them had the deepest attainments in Buddhist Dao techniques. Previously, when they discussed karma, the two of them had many topics to talk about in the lineage of Dao techniques. Zhu Yi smiled. I have also heard of the primordial heart demon's concession mantra for a long time. Wang Lin said, apart from me, little junior brother might have gained the most from this Dao technique and supernatural power. Zhu Yi nodded in agreement. That's right. With this technique, little junior brother will definitely be able to take a big step forward on the path of refining his spirit to return to the void. It is not impossible for him to directly reach the void return realm like you. As the two of them spoke, the foreign space beside them began to tremble slightly. Then two figures flew out from it. They were Shi Tianhao and Ning Wanga. We have the item. Let's go. Shi Tianhao grinned. Yes, only half of it. The rest of the restrictions have already been broken by others. It should be because of the enchantress. If not for third senior brother and you guys arriving in time, I'm afraid none of them would have survived. Wang Lin said, second senior brother has already told me about what happened in the Immortal Dragon City. You guys just need to continue on your way. I will bring the item and return to the boundless world with junior brother Daoyuo. This is the primordial heart demon's concession mantra that I have obtained. It is not complete, but I can learn from others. You guys can read it along the way. 2 streams of light shot out from his eyes. One stream of light landed in front of Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. The two of them used their own divine sense and dermic powers to sweep the streams of light. Then they focused slightly. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, Is it the first emotion and the first thought when the chaos was first formed, before the heaven and earth were separated and before creation was formed? Indeed, indeed. Understanding this theory will be of great help to me in dividing the yin-yuan origami. Third senior brother, thank you. When Wang Lin heard this, a faint smile appeared on his face. Zhu Yi, who was beside him, also opened his eyes and said, The will of the human heart, the thought of the emotions, the movement of the heart, and the movement of all living beings. It is indeed mysterious. Third junior brother, thank you. It's all right. It's good that it is useful. In that case, I will return to the mountain first and ask Master to take a look at junior brother Daluo. When Wang Lin finished speaking, he turned to look at Ning Wanga. Ning Wanga sighed and said, After this, I have nothing else to do in the void battlefield. I will return to the boundless world with you. There are some things that I need to calm down and think about in detail. Wang Lin nodded and then bade farewell to Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. He brought the crocodile deity, Daluo, and Ning Wanga to look for the gap between realms and return to the boundless world. To leave the void battlefield, even with Wang Lin's current magical powers and dermic powers, he could not do it in one go. He spent some time to find the weak point of the change between realms and immediately broke through the void to leave. They did not return to Yingxi. Instead, they went all the way to Jade Jing Mountain to meet Lin Feng's true body. Chapter 1343. Divine Land, Kunlun Mountain Range. Above the cloud peak, in the invisible void, shrouded by a purple sea of clouds and contrasted by a black sea, the white jade immortal mountain floated quietly. Above the immortal mountain, the branches of the mysterious heavenly treasure swayed. Lin Feng's true self was currently in the Xiantian Time Light Grotto Heaven at the peak of the Xiantian treasure tree. Wang Lin and Ning Wanga brought Daluo back to the mountain, and the first thing they did was to go to the Xiantian Time Light Grotto Heaven to see Lin Feng. Put the Daluo down first. Lin Feng opened his eyes and looked at them. The crocodile god stepped forward and put the Daluo down. Lin Feng stretched out his hand, and his palm shone with a bright light. It looked ordinary, but there seemed to be countless runes and talismans appearing in the light. The light engulfed the Grand Luo, and it disappeared from Lin Feng's palm without a trace. Ning Wanga looked at this and thought, Legend has it that the Xianmen sect master can use his own mana to create a top-notch spell like the Yin and Yang Life and Death Formation. The Yin and Yang Life and Death Formation has a change called the Change of Life and Death. It reverses life and death, and it can kill or bring the dead back to life. It must be this change. Lin Feng put away the zenith heaven with his mana, then looked towards Wang Lin, saying with a smile, Did you gain anything from the life and death battle? Wang Lin answered, I gained a lot, but I have some new ideas about the Yin and Yang fusion scripture. I need to study it carefully. Not only Wang Lin but Zhu Yi and the others were the same. The more they cultivated, the more they felt that the Tao of heaven and earth scripture was broad and profound. It contained endless principles, and when compared with what they had learned and seen, with the myriad great Taos of the heavens and earth, they would always have new harvests. Lin Feng nodded slightly. Take good care of your return to void physique, and continue to comprehend Tao arts. There's no need to mention our sect's Tao techniques. You've studied Buddhism techniques for many years, and have a deep understanding of them. However, this is your first time obtaining the primordial demon sex scripture. This scripture is quite high quality, and the primordial heart demon dispel incantation has infinite variations. Think about it carefully and you'll gain more. A faint smile appeared on Wang Lin's face. This disciple has the same intention. Lin Feng tilted his head slightly, looked at Wang Lin, and said with a smile, Do you feel that without the magic treasure of creation with you, you have a feeling that your hands and feet are tied up when facing the experts of the Dharma-ending realm, especially the demons of the Dharma-ending realm? As you continue to grow, they are the only ones who can give you pressure. On the other hand, Most of the opponents you will encounter in the future will be at this level. Wang Lin replied calmly, it's definitely not as easy as dealing with opponents under the Dharma ending stage, but it can't be considered as pressure. After all, I've just refined my spirit to return to the void. Lin Feng smiled and said, in the following time, you can cultivate on the mysterious sky treasure tree. Wang Lin's eyes moved slightly, as if he had thought of something. A smile appeared on his face, and he bowed to Lin Feng. Thank you, Master. You've been cultivating in the mysterious sky time cave all year round, and have had a lot of contact with the mysterious sky treasure tree. What you lack is some tidying up and polishing. Lin Feng waved his hand and said indifferently, with your comprehension, I believe you'll gain something soon. However, your great devil doppelganger can't imitate your real body. Wang Lin nodded. Yes, I understand. Lin Feng looked at him and said, are you sure you don't want to try to communicate with the Grand Emperor Palace? Although it hasn't recovered yet, the original spirit of the Grand Emperor Palace has gradually calmed down. Wang Lin shook his head. Compared to Ding of Shenzhou, the Grand Emperor Palace is more suitable to suppress our sex yin and yang life and death formation. Ding of Shenzhou and the Great Celestial Wheel aren't suitable for me. Actually, the Grand Emperor Palace isn't suitable either. Moreover, whether it's the Grand Emperor Palace or the Great Celestial Wheel, they aren't my fortuitous encounters. Wang Lin's expression was calm. He was a pragmatist. In essence, it was important to increase his strength, and he didn't care which method he used. With a creation magic treasure, his strength would definitely increase greatly. Before Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao arrived in the void battlefield, he could only use guerrilla warfare to interfere with the enchantress. If Wang Lin had a creation magic treasure with him at that time, when he fought against the enchantress, who couldn't show his true form, the situation would immediately be reversed. In Wang Lin's mind, he wouldn't be unreasonable to reject the treasure bestowed by his teacher, Lin Feng. However, he would consider for Lin Feng and the sect what was the most suitable thing to do, and how to maximize the value of the treasure. I believe that I will have my own fortuitous encounter. As Wang Lin spoke, he smiled slightly. In the eyes of others, it was as if the clouds were dispelling the sun. Master, you also said that I am proficient in the karma method and the Tao of destiny. My intuition is very accurate. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Do as you wish. Wang Lin didn't have such a premonition. In fact, he wasn't that worried. Even though he wasn't as explosive as Zhu Yi, with Wang Lin's luck and fortune, there were only a few people in the world who wouldn't be crushed by him. However, this scene was seen by Ningguang, and even by the crocodile deity, who had manifested from the treasure's original spirit. They were all secretly shocked. The master and disciple in front of them were a little too shocking. However, when they remembered that the Tai Huang Imperial Palace, Ding of Shenzhou, and the Great Wheel of Heaven were all in Xianmen Tianzong's hands, they instantly felt that the scene in front of them couldn't be more normal. When the war between the two worlds had just ended, Xianmen Tianzong's huge and terrifying group of Mahayana treasures had already shocked the world. The crocodile deity was one of them, and at that time, Lin Feng had upgraded it from a spirit-nurturing grade treasure to a Mahayana grade treasure. Although the crocodile deity hadn't been born for long, it still felt like it was a dream. However, after solving the problem of the Great Zhou dynasty's Liang Pan and Zhu Honggu, the people of the world carefully looked back and were even more shocked. Above the Mahayana magic treasures, which were even more powerful and rarer, were the creation magic treasures and nirvana magic treasures that were powerful enough to crush the Mahayana magic treasures. The number of magic treasures that the Xianmen heavenly sect controlled had also reached a terrifying level. Before this, in the history of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land, the force that controlled the most creation treasures at the same time was the Taishu Temple. Other than the Haotian Mirror and the Taishu Temple, there used to be a creation treasure called the Nine Heavenly Staff, which had already been destroyed. After the Nine Heavenly Staff was destroyed, there were the Haotian Mirror and the Taishu Temple. However, the Haotian Mirror was firmly in the position of the first treasure of Tianyuan, and its level of power was completely above the other creation treasures. However, the number of creation treasures that Xianmen Tianzong owned now had reached a number that no one had ever owned before. The ones that everyone knew were the Nirvana Bridge, Ding of Shenzhou, the Grand Imperial Palace, the Great Wheel of Heaven, and the terrifying Sky Destroyer Sword. Although the Grand Imperial Palace and the Great Wheel of Heaven were still in a dormant state, it was enough to shock the people of the world. As Ningguang and the crocodile deity thought about this, their gazes fell behind Lin Feng. Silently, there stood a tall, beautiful lady with an expressionless face. Her gaze was cold and indifferent. That was Xianli, who made the entire great Tianyuan world, and especially the vast Tianhuang land, pale at the mention of her name. Right now she was quietly standing there, not saying a word. Different from her usual sharp and unrestrained appearance, her vicious aura was completely restrained, making it hard for people to detect her. She looked just like Lin Feng right now, ordinary and unremarkable, but hard to guess. After Lin Feng and Wang Lin finished their conversation, his gaze fell on Ning Wang. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work, Taoist Ning." Ning Wang shook her head and said, "Sect leader Lin, you're too kind. I should be the one thanking you for giving me the chance to recover my past memories and undoing the biggest knot in my heart." She seemed to be very calm now. She could look at everything in the past with a normal heart, although she still couldn't help feeling that it was a lifetime ago. Lin Feng could naturally understand this. He asked, "Taoist Ning, what do you plan to do next?" Ning Wang had chosen to help Wang Lin and the others find the treasures that Yuhuang Tianhai had left in the gourd-shaped foreign space. This had undoubtedly shown her attitude and stance. Half-demon Moyanzi was Moyanzi, and she was herself. Ning Wang's personality was tranquil and indifferent. She didn't have any real contact or conflict with the Yudu race, so she didn't have too much enmity towards them. However, she was friends with Xianmen Tianzong, and became the guest elder of Xianmen Tianzong. When Xianmen Tianzong had a conflict with the Yudu race, she would stand on Xianmen Tianzong's side. In the grand scheme of things, when the humans and the demons clashed, she would also choose to stand on the side of the humans. Therefore, when Lin Feng asked her about her future plans, he wasn't asking her where she would go or what choice she would make. He was referring to the problem with the enchantress. Ning Wang didn't think too much about it. She had thought about it many times on the way back, so she immediately replied, "The enchantress, I actually don't have much enmity towards her. If she doesn't take the initiative to look for me, I don't plan to look for her either. We'll just go our separate ways. I'll stay in the sect, so I believe she won't dare to come and attack me easily." Lin Feng nodded his head. You can make your own decision on this matter." Ning Wang said. "After breaking through this barrier of gravity, I feel my bottleneck loosening. I'll prepare to cultivate in seclusion for the next few days. After making some preparations, I'll attempt to go through the calamity again." Going through a calamity was a huge matter to a cultivator. It wasn't just a matter of cultivation, it was also a matter of life and death. Once they failed, they would die. It would be a cleaner death than any enemy. Hearing that Ning Wang was planning to go through another calamity, Lin Feng, Wang Lin, and even the crocodile god said, "I wish you success." Ning Wang thanked him and left. Wang Lin also said goodbye to Lin Feng and returned to his cave abode. Lin Feng sat in the dark Heaventime light cave. After a while, he opened his palm. Light flashed, and a tall young man appeared. He landed in front of Lin Feng. It was a Grand Luo. Although the Grand Luo's face was pale, and his aura was a little weak, his injuries were no longer a hindrance. He looked at Lin Feng and his lips moved. Slowly he bowed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was calm. With a thought, the Grand Luo stopped bowing. The Grand Luo's face turned even paler. However, Lin Feng said, "Tell me in detail." Lin Feng's expression was warm, and there was a faint smile on his lips. Seeing that, the Grand Luo's expression became much more relaxed. However, his gaze became even more confused. Chapter 1344. Lin Feng and Grand Luo sat opposite each other. Grand Luo seemed to be talking in his sleep as he recounted his experiences in the void battlefield, including what he knew after recovering the memories of his past life. Silently listening, Lin Feng didn't interrupt. When Grand Luo finished, he looked at him uneasily. Only then did Lin Feng nod slightly and say, although I've guessed before that Yu Huang Celestial Sea had another reason for choosing you to reincarnate so many times to get rid of the Spirit Sea mark, I've only verified it today. Grand Luo's expression was a little blank and bitter. Actually, even if I'm not the son of father and mother, I'm still a Yudu. Lin Feng looked at him calmly and said unhurriedly, when I took you as my disciple back then, it was indeed related to your birth. However, it was just a casual gesture back then. I didn't expect so many things to happen in the future. However, since we're fated to be master and disciple, I'll protect you. Before this, the memories of your previous life were incomplete. Although many things were out of your original intention at that time, now it seems that they have become a burden in your heart. In all fairness, I and our school are both beneficiaries, so it's not good for me to comment more. I can only say that no matter what path you want to take next, I will not oppose it. Silently, Lin Feng looked at Grand Luo. I won't force you to choose your own path. At the same time, no one else can force you either. Grand Luo's gaze became clearer, and he bowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Teacher Lin. I don't regret what happened in the past, but now, I can't see my future path clearly. He sighed. I don't want to be enemies with the people of Yudu, but I don't want to be enemies with the human race and my sect even more. However, the situation on both sides makes me unable to deceive myself and others. I can't pretend that nothing has happened and stay out of it. If I want to join Yudu and become enemies with the sect and the divine land, I can't do it. However, no matter what the reason was, in the end, I had let down the expectations of father and mother, making their plans fail and harming the benefits of Yudu clan. Today, I actually still have to thank father and mother for their creation and legacy. I am Luo Yao, but I am also Grand Overarching Yudu. Determination appeared in the zenith heaven's eyes. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. I will return this body of mine to the Yudu clan. Lin Feng looked at Grand Luo. He naturally knew that what Grand Luo meant by returning it to the Yudu race was actually him committing suicide. In particular, after experiencing this incident, the Origin Luo's conviction in this regard was even firmer. Previously, the memories of his previous life had yet to recover, and he had never truly made things difficult for the Yudu race. But this time, in order to protect Wang Lin and Ning Wanga, he fought a bloody battle with Cloud Rising Yudu and Ning Feng Yudu. Both sides fought with their swords and spears, and because of his protection, Wang Lin was able to gain enough time. After Wang Lin came out of seclusion, he killed Ning Feng Yudu on the spot. In order to protect Wang Lin, he blocked Ning Feng Yudu. However, when Ning Feng Yudu was killed by Wang Lin, he couldn't stand up. At that time, Grand Luo had fallen into a coma due to his battle with Ning Feng Yudu, so he didn't know about it. However, when he woke up and found out what had happened, his originally conflicted emotions naturally became even heavier. Lin Feng looked into Grand Luo's eyes, and within them he could clearly see the determination. It's not just words, it's not impulsive, and it's not a test. Seeing this, Lin Feng sighed in his heart. It wasn't easy to survive in this world. There were all sorts of troubles, difficulties, and hardships. It was the same for cultivators, let alone ordinary people. It was just that because they stood at different heights and were in different environments, the problems they faced were also different. However, if a person wanted to die, it was all too easy, as long as they were truly determined to die. There were countless ways for a person to die silently. Ending one's own life would not alarm anyone, and it would not be stopped by others. There would not be any accidents that would cause one's death. Those who could make their own suicide known to the world and cause a sensation in the city would more or less still have a strong will to live in the depths of their hearts. They would subconsciously hope that someone could stop them, that someone could help them solve the problem that prevented them from continuing to live. Or perhaps they were unwilling and had other requests in their hearts. If one really wanted to end one's own life, as long as one's will to die was strong enough to suppress their fear of death, it would be a simple matter. However, the Grand Luo before him didn't hope that Lin Feng could help him solve his problem. Meeting his gaze, Lin Feng already knew what Grand Luo meant. Whatever he said was what he thought. The reason why he was telling Lin Feng about it now was out of respect for Lin Feng, and he didn't want to deceive Lin Feng. As for whether Lin Feng would stop him, it was not within the Grand Luo's consideration. As mentioned earlier, there were too many ways for a person who truly wanted to die to end their own life. Lin Feng, on the other hand, had the ability to stop him. As long as Lin Feng was willing, he could restrict the Grand Luo's freedom at any time. However, that was not what Lin Feng wanted. A person who was determined to die would be nothing more than a walking corpse if he forcefully preserved his life. Your future path is yours to choose and decide for yourself. As long as it's not an impulsive decision and a choice you've made after careful consideration, I won't interfere. Lin Feng looked at the Grand Luo before him and smiled. But before that, are you willing to join my sect and leave your name on the jade plate? The Grand Luo's breathing abruptly stopped, and he looked up at Lin Feng in shock. Leaving his name on the jade plate meant that he would truly become Xianmen Tianzong's disciple and become Lin Feng's personal disciple, and not his current nominal disciple. Apart from being unknown within the sect, the Grand Luo's treatment in every other aspect was no different from personal disciples. Whether it was Lin Feng, Xiaoyan Zhuyi, or the others, none of them looked down on him. However, if he became a formal personal disciple from nominal disciple, it would mean that his name would be known to the world. With Lin Feng's current position, taking in a personal disciple would definitely shock and draw the attention of the entire heaven primal world. With that, the Grand Luo's existence and background would naturally be known. The Grand Luo looked at Lin Feng and said softly, "Master Lin, for the sect and you, I'm afraid." There was a faint smile on Lin Feng's face as he shook his head. "Actually, I've already prepared everything. I'm just waiting for you to recover your memories and identify your own path." As he spoke, he swiped his palm across thin air, and a row of images appeared before the Grand Luo. It was a jade plate. There was only one jade plate at the very top, with the word ancestor written on it. The Grand Luo knew that it represented Lin Feng. And below the ancestor jade tablet, there's a row of jade tablets side by side. From right to left, there's a total of 9 tablets. The first 8 tablets are all illusions, respectively writing Yan, Yi, and I, Lan, Ming, Luo, Che, Huang, respectively representing Xiaoyan and the others. The original jade tablets are currently in their respective hands. The 9th jade plate was not illusory, but solid, with the word Yao written on it. The Grand Luo looked at the jade plate, and for a moment he was a little dazed. Before this battle in the void, his wish was to officially become Lin Feng's disciple. Over the years, he was no different from an official disciple, but Lin Feng had never officially said anything. Only today did the Grand Luo know that in Lin Feng's heart, he had long been his disciple. However, he was still waiting for him to know everything in the past before he could make a decision. Even if the Grand Luo wanted to leave Xianmen Tianzong and return to the Yuda race, Lin Feng would not make things difficult for him. Slowly, Lin Feng said, "In all fairness, I naturally don't wish for a good disciple to walk the path of suicide. There is no one in the world who can force my disciple to commit suicide. However, I'm not telling you this to make things difficult for you. It's just that you have the right to know these things. You don't have to care about what the outside world thinks. You just have to follow the choice in your heart. If you ultimately choose not to become my disciple, I won't spread the news for you, causing your people to criticize you even more after you die. As for you officially becoming my disciple, and the news spread to the world, you don't have to worry about the opinions and reactions of the other human cultivators in the divine land. Let them tell me." Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he looked at the Grand Luo calmly. The Grand Luo's emotions gradually calmed down, and his gaze became peaceful. Slowly he bowed to Lin Feng. "Disciple thanks Master for granting me my wish. I have no more regrets in this life." Lin Feng's expression did not change and he sighed softly. Before he spoke, he already knew that his words might not be a form of encouragement to the Grand Luo. Instead, it might make the Grand Luo have no more regrets, and his will would become firmer. However, as mentioned before, the Grand Luo had the right to know these things. As someone who was deeply involved with the Grand Luo, he had no right to advise the Grand Luo on this matter. It was not just him. Others such as Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi, and the others, as well as the Yudu race, had no position to stand on this matter. The affairs of the world were unpredictable, and the human world was full of misfortunes. The arrangements of the Yuhuang Celestial Sea, the unexpected change in Moyanzi, the coincidental meeting of Lin Feng and the Grand Luo, the return of the Yudu race to the Great Thousand Worlds. All these coincidences had created the Grand Luo's current situation. The Grand Luo's dilemma was closely related to his personality. If someone with a different personality was in the same situation, the outcome might be completely different. The Grand Luo bowed to Lin Feng and said calmly, "Master, disciple is overjoyed to be able to learn from you. I have no more regrets. This is what disciple has always dreamed of. As for father and the Yudu race, disciple will just return this body. Since disciple has already decided to return this body and spread the news to the world, please reconsider, master. There's really no need to trouble you and the sect because of disciple. Disciple is satisfied with being able to leave my name on the jade token." Chapter 1345. Grand Luo's tone was calm, and his emotions were gentle. He looked at Lin Feng with the same calmness. It was as if what he was discussing with Lin Feng was just a casual conversation like before, or asking for guidance on paths, skills, and divine arts. It wasn't something that concerned his life or death. Lin Feng looked at Grand Luo and sighed. No one can force his disciple onto this path, no external enemy. Not to mention with Lin Feng's current level of cultivation and status. Even if his level of cultivation was still low in the past, he would still fight to the end and never back down or compromise. Whether it was the Yudu race or the human cultivation world of the divine land like Taishu Temple, they were all the same. The only exception was Grand Luo's own will, and he couldn't force it. Moreover, whether it was fate playing tricks on people, or a coincidence, or a scheme made by the heart, as the beneficiary of the spirit sea, he had no right to advise Grand Luo. A bridge between the human race and the demon race? In the future, when the Yudu race and Xianmen Tianzong won, could they find a way to protect the losing side? Perhaps these could become Grand Luo's life goals and new pillars of faith, but both Lin Feng and Grand Luo knew that before that, there would be continuous battles and bloodshed. The Yudu race, who had once ruled the world, had resided in the middle-class world for thousands of years. Now that they could finally return to the Great Thousand Worlds, their goal was to ascend to the throne again. Those who stood in their way could only fight. As for Xianmen Tianzong, he couldn't sit and watch as the Yudu race returned to the heavens origin world and trample the human cultivation world of the divine land under the throne. If one side gave up, it would mean complete defeat for them, and they wouldn't be able to challenge the victor again. In this process, Kongyuan Yudu and Ning Fengyu were the first and second, but it wouldn't be the end for them. When the Spirit Sea reopened, other than Taishu Temple and the Enchantress, the Yudu race and Xianmen Tianzong would definitely participate. A war was unavoidable. Master and disciple stood facing each other, and the entire mysterious heaven-time light grotto heaven fell into silence. Grand Luo caressed the jade pendant with the word, "Yao," and felt its cool texture. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ever since he had been reborn into Yudu, this was the first time he smiled so peacefully. He raised the jade pendant with both hands and bowed to Lin Feng. "Master, disciple is leaving." The Grand Luo bowed his head to the ground as spots of purple light appeared on his body. They floated in the void like bright purple stars. The purple light became more and more dazzling, gradually turning into a sea of light that began to spread throughout the mysterious heaven-time-space paradise. It turned into streams of light that fluctuated continuously. Lin Feng looked calmly at the Grand Luo in front of him. There were ripples in his gaze, but he remained silent in the end. The grand heavenly immortal's body gradually turned into a blur. As the violet light flowed, it was as if the universe itself had appeared. Countless stars were born in the purple light, and they multiplied and developed until they were destroyed. Rivers, lakes, mountains, deserts, birds, beasts, and all forms of the human world appeared in the sea of purple light. It was as if creation was changing and the world was changing. After the Grand Luo bowed, he straightened his body and smiled at Lin Feng. His figure became more and more blurry, as if he had melted into the sea of purple light. Lin Feng walked forward and wandered in the sea of purple light. Soon Grand Luo's figure disappeared completely. It was as if he had transformed into countless specks of light that were like dust. Then they turned into the fog around Lin Feng. What was left was a silent, ordinary-looking skeleton, and the jade pendant with the word Yao engraved on it. His soul was destroyed, and his body and spirit were destroyed. After being reborn into Yudu, the secret skill left behind by the Yuhuang Celestial Sea came to an end. This time, Grand Heavenly Immortal would not retain his memories like the previous few lifetimes. He would continue to reincarnate and wait for a new rebirth. Lin Feng had the ability to protect Grand Luo's soul from being destroyed. Just like how the great Qin imperial family had dealt with Tian Longjin's remnant soul, he could send Grand Luo to reincarnate as a human. There was even hope for him to recover his memories. But Lin Feng would not do that. The Grand Luo ending himself was due to a dilemma of his own will, and not because of the ties of his bloodline. This was the future path that Grand Luo had chosen for himself, a path where the starting point and the ending point were the same. Whether it was to continue harming the interests of the Yudu race, or harming the interests of Xianmen Tianzong and the human race in order to compensate the Yudu race, none of these were what Grand Luo wanted. To stay out of the matter and not help either side, to sit and watch as both sides fought and deceive themselves was not what he wanted either. Before he had completely recovered his memories, he had unknowingly caused damage to the Yudu race. After he recovered his memories, he had still let down Yuhuang Celestial Sea's expectations. He was determined to give them an explanation. Even for Grand Luo, after recovering the memories of their previous lifetimes, what affected them the most was still the experience of their current lifetime. This was the choice of Grand Luo. He was not forced by anyone, nor was he impulsive. Lin Feng opened his palm, the piece of skeleton and the jade tablet fell into his palm. A look of disappointment and frustration appeared on Lin Feng's expressionless face at this moment. My disciple of Daluo, the fate between you and me as master and disciple, is it over here? Slowly, there was a taiji diagram in each of Lin Feng's eyes. Endless scenes of creation, birth, and death rose and fell, intertwining with each other. He raised his head to look at the endless void in the distance. The mysterious sky-time light paradise that he was in was trembling nonstop. Outside the paradise, the entire mysterious sky treasure tree seemed to be swaying at this moment. The purple sea of clouds around Jade Capital Mountain churned and howled nonstop. Everyone on Jade Capital Mountain looked at the mysterious sky treasure tree in shock. At this moment, they felt as if the entire great thousand worlds were trembling together. There was a hint of anger and sorrow in the sky and earth. Wang Lin was originally sitting on a branch of the mysterious sky treasure tree with his eyes closed in meditation. At this moment, he opened his eyes and raised his head to look at the mysterious sky-time light paradise above him. He seemed to have sensed something, and his usually cold and indifferent eyes also revealed sorrow at this moment. In the mysterious sky-time light paradise, Lin Feng gently closed his eyes, and his expression became emotionless again. Before this, his journey seemed to have been smooth, but there were many times when he was in danger. Only he himself understood the bitterness of it. However, he did not encounter any truly huge setbacks along the way. This also established his current status and reputation. Today, however, he finally suffered the greatest setback since coming to the great heaven primordial world. He personally saw his own disciple perish in front of him. He did not lose to any opponent, and he did not lose to anyone's schemes. He could only sigh at the irony of fate. His attainments in Buddhist skills were even above that of Zhu Yi and Wang Lin. He had also studied the 3 lives karma curse as a reference. When the primordial heart devil let him take a look at the curse, he had a vague feeling in his heart. Everything that had happened today could not be said to be as clear as a blazing fire in his eyes. He had a premonition long ago. However, he could not stop the grand heavenly immortal from investigating the truth of his birth. He could not sit back and watch the Yudu race rule the world again. He could not let the grand heavenly immortal head to the void battlefield to search for the clues left behind by the Dark Empress with Ning Wanga. He could also hide everything from the grand heavenly immortal after finding out everything. In this way, the grand heavenly immortal would naturally not end up like this. This might have been out of kindness, but it might not be kindness that the grand heavenly immortal was willing to accept. even if he did not know the truth and did not realize this. Kindness, first and foremost, was to be considerate of others. Kindness that disregarded the wishes of others might be able to save those who refused to come to their senses, but it could also easily become the selfish and self-satisfied person of the benevolent. Fate made fools of people. The path of the grand heavenly immortal's fate had led to where it was today, whether by coincidence or by accident. Lin Feng had participated in it. He was in no position to ask the grand heavenly immortal to do what he should and should not do. Lin Feng stood in the mysterious heaven's time-light paradise and silently pondered over the feelings that rose in his heart. To him, it was a feeling that was gradually becoming unfamiliar. After a long time, Lin Feng opened his eyes. The taiji patterns in his pupils had already disappeared. His pupils were pitch black, and his white were distinct. His gaze was calm. At this moment, Lin Feng's eyes gave off a feeling that was completely different from before. They were as innocent and lively as a baby, as bright and sharp as a youth, with the vicissitudes of a middle-aged man and a hint of fatigue. They were also like an old man, calm and serene. However, at the same time, they seemed to be deathly still, without any signs of life. At this moment, many characteristics appeared in the same pair of eyes and blended together. They were clear and distinct, yet integrated into one. It was difficult to separate them. Beside Lin Feng, a young man appeared. He was dressed in a black and white Taoist robe. The gaze in his eyes was exactly the same as Lin Feng's. At the same time, it contained the characteristics of a baby, a teenager, and a middle-aged man. When others looked at his eyes, it was as if they were looking at a baby or a youth. In the next moment, it became a middle-aged man, and upon closer inspection, it seemed to be an old man. This young man dressed in a black and white Taoist robe was the primordial spirit of the Bell of Fate, Fate Creation Boy. Fate Creation Boy bowed to Lin Feng and said, "Old Master." Lin Feng pointed his finger lightly. At this moment, the vast purple fog floating in the mysterious heaven's time-light paradise all gathered towards the jade pendant with the word Yao engraved on it. Then it was absorbed into the jade pendant. "Keep it well." With a wave of Lin Feng's hand, the jade pendant and the piece of skeleton fell into the hands of Fate Creation Boy behind him. Fate Creation Boy took them silently, and then took a step back. His figure disappeared, and the shape of the Bell of Fate reappeared. Silently Lin Feng said, "Ring the bell." The Bell of Fate behind him let out a melodious sound. At this moment, it resounded throughout the Tianyuan world. Many living creatures could hear it. It seemed to come from the depths of their souls. Yet it also seemed to pass through the endless space. The ringing of the Bell of Fate immediately startled the heavens and realms. When the bell rang more than 9 times, everyone who heard it could not help but be shocked and attracted their attention. Now, in the cultivation world of the Tianyuan world, be it the human clan or the demon clan, everyone knew that the melodious sound of the bell originated from the celestial sect master Lin Feng's magic treasure. When the bell rang more than 9 times, something extraordinary must have happened. Chapter 1346. The bell of creation rang above his head, and Lin Feng walked out of the Xiantian time realm grotto heaven. Wang Lin was waiting outside, and he bowed to Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "Summon Tianquan here. I originally planned to help her spread the news after you returned. Now that the grand heavenly immortal realm has happened, we should still announce it. It's just that she might be tied up for the sake of the grand heavenly immortal realm. I'm afraid it'll be unfair to her." Wang Lin replied, "Master, there's no need to worry. With Tianquan's personality, she doesn't mind." It was the same for him. Lin Feng nodded and flicked his finger. A stream of light flew into the void, and along with the melodious sound of the bell, it spread out on the peak of Jade Capital Mountain. Previously, the Divine Land was not peaceful either. A rumor quickly spread among the human cultivation world in the vast land of the Divine Land. At first it was only spread in a small area, but in a very short time, it almost spread to the entire Divine Land. In Xianmen Tianzong, there existed a Yuda beast. It wasn't a captive, but a Yuda beast that could move freely. It was even enlightened by the master of the celestial gate. What was even more shocking was that this Yudu beast was the son of the first wife of Yuhuang Tianhai in the past. Yuhuang Tianhai was one of the 3 great demons in the history of the Great Heaven primordial world. He was the strongest person in the current era, and he ruled over Tianhuang vast land. He ruled over the divine land. In this war between the 2 worlds, the Yudu race that had returned to the Great Thousand World, and almost brought a calamity to the human cultivation world of the divine land. Their entire race's strength wasn't even comparable to Yuhuang's in the past. Her son actually entered Xianmen Tianzong, and even received guidance from the master of the celestial gate to cultivate the Tao. When the news spread out, the entire divine land was instantly shaken. Similarly, waves of shock swept through Tianhuang vast land. Everyone was discussing it, trying all sorts of ways to verify it. As time passed, in everyone's eyes, the most powerful proof was the silence of Yudu clan. It was as if they were admitting it in shame. On the divine land, the human forces were all bewildered. However, it was not convenient for them to go to Xianmen Tianzong to seek confirmation. Therefore, they could only try to beat around the bush. Right at that moment, the bell of creation on Mount Jade capital in the Kunlun mountain range suddenly rang, resounding through the heavens. When the war between the 2 worlds had just ended, when Lin Feng was bestowing honorific titles on his personal disciples, he had said, "With this ceremony, the bell of creation will ring 16 times. Future generations will bear witness, and it will be a symbol of the sect throughout the ages." It was also at that time when the mountain gate was opened that he established the rules and etiquette for Xianmen Tianzong. From then on, whenever the founding master personally bestowed honorific titles on the disciples of the sect, the bell of good fortune would ring 16 times. The bell of good fortune rang from 1 to 7 times as a greeting ceremony. Depending on the identity of the guest, the first ring was the lowest, and the 7th ring was the highest. When the bell of good fortune rang 8 times, it meant that a grand ceremony was being held within the sect. All the disciples of the sect, regardless of whether they were inheriting the legacy or laying the foundation, would gather together. When the bell of good fortune rang 9 times, it meant that the founding master, Lin Feng, would personally host the grand ceremony within the sect. When the bell of good fortune rang 9 times, it was usually used as a greeting ceremony, and for the internal affairs of the sect. However, once it rang more than 9 times, it meant that Xianmen Tianzong had something to announce to the world. At that moment, in the sky above the Kunlun mountain range, a large illusory scene of light and shadow appeared. It distorted and erased the barriers and boundaries of time and space, causing most people on the divine land to be able to see the images that appeared in the illusory scene of light and shadow. In the light and shadow, there was a vast bronze bell. It was full of contradictory feelings. At first glance, it felt extremely small as a speck of dust. However, at the next glance it felt extremely huge, so huge that it covered the heavens. A strange feeling filled everyone's mind. When they stared at the bell, it was as if they saw the most primordial chaos. Then as the bell rang, the primordial chaos transformed into the primitive universe. Then billions of stars were born and destroyed, and everything in the world was formed. Countless lives were born and then disappeared. That was Lin Feng's bell of good fortune. As the bell rang, everyone calmed down from their initial shock. Then they began to silently count the bell's tolls. 23, 24, 25. 25 tolls. When the bell stopped, everyone's heart trembled slightly. 25 tolls. Does that mean that one of the inheritors of Xianmen Tianzong has reached the primordial soul realm? Everyone's expressions were different. Among the 8 inheritors of Lin Feng, all of them had reached the primordial soul realm. At that moment, the bell of good fortune had rung 25 times. That meant, everyone looked at the illusory realm of light and shadow. They saw a purple-clothed young man standing under the mystic sky treasure tree at the top of the Jade Capital Mountain. He was the master of the celestial gate, Lin Feng. Beside Lin Feng stood a white-haired young man with a calm and indifferent expression. He was Lin Feng's 3rd disciple, Wang Lin, the Supreme High Holiness. In front of Lin Feng and Wang Lin stood a woman. This woman looked to be in her 20s. She was tall and slender with snow-white skin. Her appearance was cold and elegant, and her long black hair fell down her back to her waist. Her lips were much lighter than ordinary people's. Her face was extremely pale, and her eyes were deep. The leaders of the human forces in the divine land all changed their expressions slightly when they saw this woman. They all knew this woman. Even if some of them hadn't seen her face to face, they could still recognize her. She was Wang Lin's inheritor, Dao Yuding. Because she had started cultivating earlier and joined the sect earlier, she had always been the person with the highest realm among the second-generation inheritors of Xianmen Tianzong. At the same time, she was also very proud of her supernatural powers, and was good at fighting and killing. In the previous war between the two realms, she had killed a great sage of the demon clan with her late-stage Yuanying cultivation base. Her glorious battle achievements were ranked first among the second-generation inheritors of the Celestial Gate, and the cultivators of other forces were also surprised. However, this wasn't the reason why everyone's expressions changed. What shocked them was that Dao Yuding's supernatural power was vast and ethereal, and she seemed to be one with heaven and earth. Apparently, she had successfully reached the primordial soul realm. Although they could tell that Dao Yuding had just reached the primordial soul realm, everyone felt dizzy. There was actually someone among the second-generation inheritors of Xianmen Tianzong who had reached the primordial soul realm. Before this, there were no signs to speak of. This sudden strike really made everyone in the vast land of China dizzy and disoriented. Unlike Lin Feng's direct disciples like Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi, this was a powerhouse in the primordial soul realm among Lin Feng's disciples' generation. The difficulty of the primordial soul realm surpassed the difficulty of all the previous cultivation levels combined. Once the step was taken, there would be a huge difference between man and heaven. Crossing the boundary between man and heaven, one would be reborn, and one would be able to live a long life. There were countless Yuanying cultivators who were stuck at 3,600 years of lifespan. When their lifespan came to an end, they could only fall in despair and turn into dust. The Thunderbolt Sword sect lost a new primordial soul realm swordsman, Ben Lazy, in the war between the two worlds. This caused everyone, including the Thunderbolt Sword Venerable, to vomit blood. For many years, there had not been a single primordial soul realm cultivator. When Ben Lazy finally emerged, he died in the hands of the Demon Clan, causing the entire Thunderbolt Sword sect to be extremely depressed. The Sun Moon Sword sect's glorious Sun Sword Venerable had been waiting for a new Moonlight Sword Venerable for thousands of years. Chuyang was born in Beyond Heaven Mountain. He was the second primordial soul realm cultivator after the founding ancestor of Beyond Heaven Mountain. Since the death of that ancestor, Beyond Heaven Mountain, which had once fought with the Wind God sect for the control of the southern foot of Kunlun Mountain, could only rely on him. In the battle of extermination, Xiao Yan and the other three had all reached the primordial soul realm in a short period of time, shocking the world. In this war between the two worlds, Lin Feng's remaining four disciples, Yu Hongyan, Luo Qinggu, Li Yuanfang, and Yang Qing, had also reached the primordial soul realm, attracting the attention of the world once again. All of Lin Feng's personal disciples had reached the primordial soul realm, shocking the world. Who would have thought that today, another primordial soul realm expert would appear among the direct descendants of Xianmen Tianzong? After the ceremony where Lin Feng conferred titles on Xiao Yan and the others, Dao Yuding returned to Yujing Mountain. After Wang Lin reported to Lin Feng, she went straight to the Xiantian Eternal Light Cave to cultivate and finally came out recently. Among the second-generation true disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, she was the first disciple to successfully reach the primordial soul realm. This scene made the crowd of primordial soul realm cultivators feel a burst of absurdity and disbelief. Since when did it become so easy to reach the primordial soul realm? The great Qin dynasty's Dao Master Chang'e raised his head slightly and recalled when he reached the primordial soul realm. At that time, his lifespan should have already exceeded 2,000 years. 2,544 years old. After experiencing countless failures, enduring countless hardships, and consuming countless resources, I finally succeeded. The gaze of the Celeritas Sword sect's patriarch Xian fell on Dao Yuding, and he tasted bitterness in his mouth. This year he was already 1,400 years old, and the primordial soul realm still seemed far away. Even the road in front of him was full of fog, and he did not know how to move forward. If it was said that Xiao Yan and the other 7 had all reached the primordial soul realm, then it would be fine. After all, their master was that big figure. But when a second-generation disciple like Dao Yuding also reached the primordial soul realm, it immediately made everyone feel that the world was not real. After all, her master, Wang Lin, reached the primordial soul realm. Calculating by the time of the vast 1,000 worlds, it was only a matter of 10 years or so. Even with the help of the heavenly cave, which accelerated the flow of time, 10 years in the vast 1,000 worlds, for the cultivation world, was also an extremely short time. And how many years had it been since Xianmen Tianzong established the sect? Lin Feng established Xianmen Tianzong, not before some strong cultivators established the sect. When he was still a rogue cultivator, he had more than one generation of disciples, and it was already flourishing. Not only Dao Yuding, even his personal disciples, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing and the others, only formally entered the sect when it was established. In the short span of a few decades, Lin Feng and the celestial sect of wonders had risen together. At the same time, they were also crushing many conventions and common sense in the history of the Heaven Yuan Great World. Everything was crushed, leaving the world dumbfounded. In the scene of light and shadow, Dao Yuding slowly prostrated towards Lin Feng and Wang Lin. Then, with a turn of her body, she manifested a primordial spirit avatar, shedding her human form and transforming into the appearance of a Taiji diagram that blotted out the sky and earth. On the gigantic Taiji diagram, streams of ice sprayed out, transforming into streams of glaciers, a sea of ice. Lin Feng gently flicked his finger, and an ice-blue blade light fell on the Tai Chi diagram formed by Dao Yuding's primordial soul. It was a magic weapon. Tianquan, you are the first among the second-generation disciples to reach the primordial soul realm. This magic weapon is your reward. In the future, continue to cultivate. Chapter 1347. Dao Yuding's growth was guided by her master, Wang Lin. All kinds of opportunities, magic weapons and elixirs were arranged by Wang Lin. Today, only this magic weapon, Gui Water Cold Saber, was given by Lin Feng as a reward for being the first among the second-generation disciples to reach the primordial spirit realm. This treasure originated from Lord Gui Water, who was suppressed by Lin Feng in the past. He occupied the East Sea's Flowing Waves Mountain after Lord Liubo left, and intended to refine a magic weapon on the mountain. When he was only one step away from success, King Kuei Nio happened to return to Flowing Waves Mountain with Lin Feng and others, so he accidentally found what Lord Gui Water had done. After that, Sea Spirit Cult King and the Sea Spirit Cult clan were rescued. Lord Gui Water was suppressed, and the magic weapon he refined also fell into the hands of Lin Feng. The quality of the magic weapon itself was good, and it was because of this treasure that Lord Gui Water returned to Flowing Waves Mountain. When it reached Lin Feng's hands, Lin Feng casually digested it, and added some precious materials that Grand Emperor Gui Shui did not have the ability to obtain, completely refining this treasure, and making the quality of this magic treasure go up another level. Even though it is a spirit-nurturing level magic treasure, its strength is extraordinary and the quality is outstanding. The treasures that Lin Feng gave to his disciples were always carefully considered. This Gui Water Cold Saber was quite compatible with Dao Yuding, and it was suitable for her to carry. The ice blue saber light fell into the Tai Chi diagram formed by Dao Yuding's primordial spirit, and then the glacier Tai Chi diagram turned in the void and turned back into Dao Yuding, standing in front of Lin Feng and Wang Lin. Dao Yuding bowed to Lin Feng and Wang Lin. Disciple thanks Patriarch for the treasure. Lin Feng said, cultivate hard, and in the future, your supernatural power and Dharma power will be further improved, and there is Ice Spirit Cloud waiting for you. Dao Yuding nodded and replied, disciple thanks Ancestral Master and Master. She was very familiar with the Ice Soul Cloudy Mist. She had heard about it since she was young. It was the most powerful Dharma treasure in the Celestial Lake sect after the Grand Ascension Stage Dharma treasure, the Twin Poles Sky Peak. Later on, when the Celestial Pool sect was destroyed and the sect's elder Bing, was captured, the treasure fell into Lin Feng's hands. As time passed, Lin Feng finally subdued it. As far as Dao Yuding was concerned, most of the memories left by the Sky Pool sect were not pleasant. When Dao Yuding first joined the sect, she had a long conversation with the two poles of the Twin Poles Sky Peak, Apart from the parties involved, only Lin Feng and Wang Lin knew about the specific content of the conversation. The others, including Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others, were not aware of it. Moreover, Lin Feng and Wang Lin were not present at the scene. However, what was certain was that the two poles of the Twin Poles Sky Peak would not force Dao Yuding. Otherwise, Lin Feng and Wang Lin would not agree to it. After that long conversation, Dao Yuding and the two poles of the Twin Poles Sky Peak seemed to reach some kind of consensus. From then on, Lin Feng and Wang Lin were the first to confirm that Dao Yuding would not become the first-seat disciple of Wang Lin's mortal Lin Ju's second-generation direct disciple. Because of Dao Yuding's own wishes, Lin Feng and Wang Lin acquiesced to all of this. Otherwise, the two poles of the Twin Poles Sky Peak would not be able to force her. It was also from then on that Dao Yuding knew that the Ice Soul Cloudy Mist would be bestowed to her one day. It was already something that she had already decided on. And today, the Gui Water Cold Saber that Lin Feng had bestowed to her was her reward for being the first to attain the primordial soul realm. Looking at Dao Yuding, the cultivators of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land were slightly dazed. A second-generation disciple has also attained the primordial soul realm. Compared to Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, and the others, Dao Yuding's attainment of the primordial soul realm naturally caused less waves. But that seemed to be a signal. The matter behind it was what made everyone shocked. Other than Dao Yuding, the second-generation true disciples of Xianmen Tianzong were Lin Tong, Tang Jun Hanyang, Ying Luozha, Zhou Yunsong Yang Tai, and Huang Jinting. Putting aside Dao Yuding, after her, the outstanding second-generation true disciples of Xianmen Tianzong would also begin to advance towards a whole new height. They would transform their deep potential, which shocked the world, into powerful strength. One by one, the experts of Xianmen Tianzong would rise, causing the strength of the entire Xianmen Tianzong to reach an astounding level. This scene was something that would make the cultivators of the other forces of the Divine Land feel dizzy just thinking about it. In the territory of the Great Zhou dynasty, the cultivators had already been scattered. Although they were still connected to each other, they were no longer a whole. At this moment, looking at Dao Yuding in the illusion of light and shadow, their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They were all cultivators from the Tianqi sect in the past. After the destruction of the Tianqi sect, the sect's territory was occupied by the northern militant imperial court, and most of them were taken over by the Great Zhou dynasty. Thinking back to the scene of the Battle of Shilling City, and then looking at the current Xianmen Tianzong and Dao Yuding, these cultivators all felt as if it was a lifetime ago. Not to mention the Tianqi sect in the past, even the current Great Zhou dynasty could not be compared to Xianmen Tianzong at all. In a large city in the southern region of the Great Zhou dynasty, at this moment, there was a young man who was expressionlessly looking at the illusion of light and shadow in front of him. The young man had already successfully formed his nascent soul. As a Yuanying cultivator, everyone in the city respected him. However, there was no one else in the young man's eyes. Only Dao Yuding in the illusion of light and shadow. This man was the successor of the Tianqi sect in the past, the direct disciple of the sect master Chao Wei, Song Qingyuan. In the past, he had a relationship with the woman who received the congratulations of the world in the illusion of light and shadow, but now that he thought about it, it was like a dream. He had brought that woman endless fear and nightmares. However, it seemed that in the eyes of Dao Yuding, he was already nothing. Not to mention nightmares, Dao Yuding didn't even have the interest to find him for revenge. On the contrary, in the many years after the Battle of West Hill City and the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, Song Qingyuan was first resentful and unwilling, then secretly terrified, and only gradually calmed down after many years. He had once attended the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly. At that time he discovered to his shock that Dao Yuding, who was at the middle stage of the Golden Elixir, had already surpassed him, who was still at the late stage of the Golden Elixir Dharma Assembly. Even though Dao Yuding didn't obtain first place in the Dharma Assembly, she had already surpassed him, who was still at the late stage of the Golden Elixir Dharma Assembly. Moreover, the rising momentum that Dao Yuding displayed left Song Qingyuan in the dust. The current Song Qingyuan had also successfully formed his nascent soul with the help of the great Zhou dynasty in the past. Only he himself knew the hardships involved. However, when he looked at Dao Yuding again, the two of them were no longer people of the same world. Fate makes fools of people. Unexpectedly, such a thought arose in Song Qingyuan's mind. At the moment, he could no longer feel resentment and unwilling emotions. Instead, he felt more fortunate. Fortunate that Dao Yuding didn't come back to settle the score with him. Thinking about how fate makes fools of people and how the world is ever-changing, Song Qingyuan's gaze fell on the person in front of Dao Yuding. There was naturally no need to say much about Lin Feng. At the moment, Song Qingyuan looked at Wang Lin, and his emotions couldn't help but be somewhat complicated. Back when Dao Yuding was still in the Tianqi sect, the first time she became known to the world was during the Desolate Sea Dharma Assembly, and Wang Lin was actually the same. However, during that Desolate Sea Dharma Assembly, Wang Lin's cultivation was only at the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, while Dao Yuding was at the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Who would have thought that the former would actually become the master of the latter, and now even single-handedly nurtured and taught the latter, and then witnessed the latter attaining the primordial soul realm? At that time, Song Qingyuan, who was already at the late stage of the Golden Elixir, now looked at them, but now he couldn't even look up to them. The huge gap was nothing more than that, and it made Song Qingyuan's emotions extremely complicated. At this moment, in the illusion of light and shadow, Wang Lin's calm gaze suddenly moved slightly, and his neck turned slightly. His gaze seemed to pass through the endless void, and he lightly glanced at Song Qingyuan. Song Qingyuan's whole body trembled, and he lowered his head, not daring to make eye contact with Wang Lin. After a long time, he let out a soft sigh. On Yujing Mountain, Dao Yuding put away the Gui water-cold saber, bowed to Lin Feng and Wang Lin, and then left. The group of Xianmen Tianzong disciples and people on the mountain all congratulated Dao Yuding. At this time, the powerful figures and powerhouses of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land also calmed down, nodded slightly, and ordered their disciples to go to Kunlun Mountain to congratulate her. Some of them even personally went to Kunlun Mountain. Although Dao Yuding was only a second-generation disciple in Xianmen Tianzong, she was now a real primordial spirit realm cultivator, and her status and strength were already not to be underestimated, especially Dao Yuding, who was a direct disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. Most likely, her strength could not be measured by the ordinary primordial spirit incarnation realm cultivators. First, there was her master Wang Lin and the others, and then there was her uncle master Yu Hongyan and the others. All of them proved this point again and again. Just when everyone thought that today's matter had ended, the bell of creation above Lin Feng's head rang again. Everyone looked at the illusion of light and shadow in shock. When they came back to their senses, they carefully counted the sound of the bell, and the result made them even more shocked. 36 rings. This time, the bell of creation sounded 36 rings. According to the etiquette of Xianmen Tianzong, the 36 rings of the bell of creation meant that the founder of Xianmen, Lin Feng, had accepted a disciple. It was not Xianmen Tianzong who had opened the mountain gate to accept disciples, but the master of Xianmen, Lin Feng, had accepted a personal disciple. Ever since Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu, Lin Feng had never accepted another pro-disciple. And the pro-disciples he had accepted before were all the proud sons of heaven who shook the past and dazzled the present. The master of the celestial sect was full of heroes, and this was already a widely spread story in the vast land of the Divine Land. After the war between the two worlds, Lin Feng, who single-handedly turned the situation around with his sword, had attracted the attention of the world, let alone accepting disciples. The number of people who wanted to be his disciple was as many as the carps in the river, innumerable. Few people knew that the great Chanyu of the northern militant royal court had once begged for his own son to become a personal disciple of Lin Feng, but his wish had not been fulfilled. Becoming a personal disciple of the master of Xianmen Tianzong was also a great honor. Everyone knew that the master of Xianmen Tianzong never misjudged people, and those who were chosen by him, even if they were temporarily covered in dust, would definitely have something extraordinary. And after entering the sect, they would have a high status, a bright future, rich resources, and the top magical arts of the divine land. Now that Lin Feng was going to accept another personal disciple, how could the world not be shocked? For a moment, the entire divine land was silent, and everyone was staring at the illusion of light and shadow, wanting to see who was the lucky one who could reach the sky in one step. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.